sees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Monday to you, my little buddy.
Happy Monday to you, Crudy. Fancy Brian back on the board. Hope you had a wonderful birthday weekend, my dear friend, our audience. Thank you for joining us as well.
You know, I'd get there eventually, Dom. It's Monday. It took me a few extra seconds.
Turn the mic on, man. You ought to practice.
Building up to a really big show, Dom. This show, very big and somewhat troubling. I got to tell you, I'm a little troubled by the news revealed over the course of the weekend. And there was some secret testimony, at least secret in that it was not public. We haven't seen the testimony.
No.
But even what is public, Dom, even what we now know about the former president, Donald Trump. First and foremost, I never realized just quite how obsessed this man was. Obsessed with overturning the election, you know, way before the insurrection even. And we've got a very troubling timeline. This one brought to you by the Washington Post and brought to you, our fair audience, by the Devil's Advocates, because, you know, if we read it, it's ours, Dom. But this troubling timeline, here's what I hope, Dom. Someday in a court of law, we're going to hear this damning timeline laid out by the prosecution in the trial of Donald Trump. And I'm now to the point where I want Merrick Garland to move a little quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, there needs to be some charges coming out. So anyway,
the constant drip of information coming out. And again, obviously we lived through all of this and we remember some of the players and some of the kind of weird goings on at the time. Why would this person want to, why would they instill this guy as head of the Department of Justice? Right. And I remember living through it thinking, well, this is strange. But now as we get more information, as the books have come out, as testimony has been given, it would be nice. I hope Garland's on top of it. But I mean, to wait for the the select committee in the House to get through all of it. Hell, they've only had, one session so far. So yeah, I hope the DOJ's on it, because I'm really, really getting tired of looking at some of my conservative leaning, external family members and saying, that treasonous traitorous bastard, I can't wait till he's in jail. And they look at me going, what do you mean? Even in the Trump world, certainly they're not aware that this secret testimony was given over the weekend.
Dominic, I questioned who is this Jeffrey Clark? Who is this wannabe Benedict Arnold that was willing, that was willing to overturn a national election and hand it off to Donald Trump? Who's this guy? Where'd he come from?
Right. I don't
Clark,
know, man.
It's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
Yeah, Clark. He's got lots of gifts for the president.
Will he be charged criminally in the very foreseeable future? I'm talking like between now and the end of summer. I mean, let's hurry up and put this guy, due process and all that kind of stuff. But let's put this guy on trial. Let's find out what he did and why did he do it. Dom, a headline at the Raw Story, and I prefer the recapsulated stories brought to us by the Raw Story. Sarah K. Burris, in this case, CNN, the original source article. Donald Trump attempted one of the most sweeping crimes against the Constitution in U.S. history.
Ooh, that's a pretty damning headline when you put it like that.
Revelations about President Donald Trump's Justice Department staff testifying behind closed doors have reverberated through Trump world. Already, Trump is starting his morning with a slate of statements attempting to distract from the news. According to CNN analysis, Trump has a lot to distract from. Former acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen testified for 7 hours 7 hours, Dom. That's a lot of hours. In the
Hey, hang on. He
Senate
testified for
Judiciary
7
Committee.
hours at the Senate Judiciary Committee on Saturday. And that was after testifying for 2 hours with the Department of Justice's Inspector General. That's 9 hours of testimony that this guy has given on the course of 2 days over the weekend. That would be a little concerning. Of course, he was the acting attorney general after Barr decided to go spend more time with family.
Well, it's almost like Rosen felt like he had a lot to say and was a little concerned that the former president might sue to, let's say, block his testimony.
Right.
But he's on the record now, and we haven't seen the testimony, but it's in the record. Quick quote, and then we've got some sound perhaps of Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois. He's very involved in this. He's made a lot of the public comment, but here's what some of the analysis said. The flood of shocking new disclosures means that a potential new White House campaign by Trump in 2024 would come with the most grave implications for American democracy in decades. I mean, let's not forget, this guy's got $100 million in growing war chest. Trump does. I mean, he's your Republican front runner.
Hell, if you ask Trump, he's still the kingmaker, baby.
Well, he was claiming that today, right? A little press release, Tom. Senator Blumenfeld, another Democrat, this one from Connecticut, his take was even more startling as he revealed just how close the country came to total catastrophe earlier this year. Last week, documents were revealed showing a DOJ Trump loyalist, this aforementioned Jeffrey Clark, Tom, was crafting documents that would effectively nullify the Georgia election and hand it over to the state legislature. What award to Donald Trump, of course. Do we want to jump in here with the Durbin? I've got the conclusion, Dom. I just want to throw this out there, and then we can give you some of the center sound. The patchwork of new details proved that Trump's unhinged behavior after losing the election was not only more extreme than it appeared from the outside. Again, this according to CNN. The emerging timeline also suggests that Trump attempted one of the most sweeping crimes against the Constitution in U.S. history. He tried to use presidential power to overturn the election in Georgia and elsewhere. He imposed huge pressure on career officials to go along with his corruption, and he called a mob to Washington, which, incited by his lies, staged an insurrection against the Congress as it was in the act of certifying Joe Biden's electoral victory. If Trump was still in power, new details of such abuses of power would undoubtedly merit a third impeachment, Tom.
No doubt, man. And thank God this man is not in power, and he cannot hide behind claims of absolute immunity. He is not the president. And perhaps one of the reasons, Curdy, why he was so obsessed with this is because he realized he's going to lose whatever protection the White House office afforded him. He didn't have absolute immunity, but he does have some immunity as the president. As the former president, not so much. So if you're looking at perhaps some charges, some indictments, some reconciling with your wrongdoing, yeah, he was very motivated. Did he even go golfing during this time frame? That's how motivated, how obsessed he was in trying to overturn this election. And he had enablers at the DOJ, he had enablers in Congress, and he certainly had the mob working with him.
Well, I know Rachel Maddow, eventually we'll get to this later today, but Aaron Blake at the Washington Post dropped a new timeline. This is new news, and we're going to share with you, our fair audience, about 2:30. But we got some sound to share with you in the meantime. And should we get there? Do we have time? Fancy Brian's nodding yes. If you say yes, I believe you. Dick Durbin, this was August 5th on the morning show. Let's play cut one.
Well, it gets down to the bottom line of what happened in those days after the November election and before President Biden was sworn in. There was a lot of activity by Trump personally and by those supporting him to try to put pressure on the Department of Justice to back up his wacky big lie theories. There were some profiles in courage of those who stood up to him, and there's some profiles in cowardice as well. We want to make a record of this because this is just not a curiosity in American history. It really gets to the heart of who we are as a country and whether this president former president, or any one of them can challenge the basis of this democracy.
More from Dick Durbin. Cut 2, please.
We are going to be interviewing key witnesses in the next few days. I think that's the preliminary step that we should take. It'll be a bipartisan effort. We invite the Republicans to be part of it, to hear what we learn and to decide where to go next. But it really focuses on the Department of Justice. And of course, that would include Bill Barr at some point, I hope, who will come forward and tell the story of why he resigned under the circumstances.
He wants more time with his family, man. Of course.
If he wants to keep his ass out of prison, Bill Barr needs to testify. One more from Dick Durbin. You got to hear this one.
When you go to the heart of the issue of the peaceful transfer of power in the United States, you're really questioning whether or not this nation, as we know it, this constitutional creation, can survive. It's that basic. What happened under Nixon is well documented, but it was a question of trying to suppress an investigation that he found embarrassing. This is much, much more. And if it were just the ravings of this former president that we were dealing with, we could push them off to a side. But so many members of the Republican Party have stood by in silence or in affirmation of his cause that it's worrisome. You just wonder what's going on in their minds. They've got to know better. And yet, for fear of what Trump might do to them politically, they're silent or join a chorus of support.
Do we have time for one more Durbin on McConnell?
The fear factor here is beyond anything I've seen in politics, and I've been around a while. The notion that Donald Trump might single you out and say, now turn around and defeat him, is enough for some of these senators to do things which are completely indefensible. I mean, I take a look at the commission to study what happened on January 6th. I was in the so-called secret location with Mitch McConnell. I know how he felt at that moment. I thought to myself, we are really coming together, Democrats and Republicans at this moment, to stand up against what happened on January 6th. And now look what has played out since then. Efforts at a bipartisan commission to establish a history and to establish what was behind this have been thwarted by McConnell himself. Here in the United States Senate. And sadly, his own people, his own Republican senators have stood by in mute reaction.
And it was far worse than we ever knew. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
This drip, drip, drip is undermining the credibility of this administration.
You serious, Clark? I wasn't talking to you.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
I wonder who that is, honey.
Hugs with family.
Grandma and Grandpa's here.
Get over here.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
I miss you so much, Grandpa.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
According to the Federalist Waller account being read into the congressional record by Ron Johnson, if this is just a small number of instigators and 100,000 true Trump-loving people, why did the Trumpsters stop the instigators? Why wouldn't you say, hey, they're not like us, let's stop those guys, instead of joining them and breaking into the U.S. Capitol?
I really believe I'd run into, even if I didn't have a weapon.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, your obsession. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the timelines, they are quite troubling. Aaron Blake at the Washington Post, going to get to that one in just a moment. Going to try to make some time for your phone calls as well. 844-967-2789. But this breaking news over the weekend, this testimony and the reporting thereof, Dom, as it was described by Dick Durbin, we just heard a little sound from him. He described the Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen's testimony this weekend as frightening. And I got to tell you, I'm a little frightened, and I don't scare easy, fella, but this adds up. This culmination, this was more than just, a really bad day on January 6th. This was a buildup. This was a constant pressure campaign by the former president. This guy was obsessed with trying to overturn the electoral outcome.
Dick Durbin, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. A little bit from the New York Times here, Crudy. Rosen emerged as a key witness in multiple investigations that focus on Trump's efforts to undermine the results of the election. He has publicly stated the Justice Department did not find enough fraud to affect the outcome of the election. On Friday, Rosen told investigators from the Inspector General's office about 5 encounters with Mr. Clark, including one in late December, during which his deputy admitted to meeting with Mr. Trump and pledged he would not do so again, according to a person familiar with the interview. Now, generally speaking, you don't do an end around the acting AG to go meet with the president, right?
Well, at one point, these two were put in competition for that very role, Dom, sort of an apprentice style competition between Clark and Rosen. And eventually Trump apparently decided to stick around with the Rosen guy, the guy that gave all the testimony this weekend.
Only after a bunch of people threatened to resign, right? A little bit more here. Rosen also described subsequent exchanges with Clark, who continued to press colleagues to make statements about the election that they found to be untrue, according to a person familiar with the interview. He also discovered that Mr. Clark had been engaging in unauthorized conversations with Mr. Trump about ways to have the Justice Department publicly cast doubt on President Biden's victory, particularly in battleground states that Mr. Trump was fixated on, like Georgia. Clark drafted a letter that he asked Rosen to send to Georgia state legislatures, wrongly asserting that they should void Biden's victory because the Justice Department was investigating accusations of voter fraud in the state. Such a letter would effectively undermine efforts by Mr. Clark's colleagues to prevent the White House from overturning the election results, and Rosen and his top deputy, Richard Donahue, rejected the proposal. Now, Donahue, if you remember from last week's assignments, kids, was the one that took down the notes of the conversation when Trump said, hey, just declare it corrupt and leave the rest to me and my Republican cohorts.
From CNN's reporting, Don, both Rosen and Donahue told the investigators that they didn't know whether Clark, this Jeffrey Clark guy, was acting at Trump's behest or orchestrating a plot he concocted himself. The men testified that in their interactions with Trump, he didn't order them to do anything illegal and eventually accepted their advice that the Justice Department couldn't take actions to claim fraud when it had no evidence of it.
But I want it that way.
Clearly he did. 844-967-2789. Brian from Wisconsin, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, I just want to say that Devil Radio is the best in Madison. I really love it, one. And
Nice.
Two, I moved here because, COVID was taking a relaxation. And I thought, I'll get into food service. But now that Delta variant's kind of overtaking stuff, I can't do it. And the other folks in food service I've been speaking to, they're desperate for government to step in and say, let's all please wear masks when we're inside. That's definitely the vibe on the street.
No, it's getting to be that way. Brian, so are you working in a restaurant or are you not working currently?
I have been working and I just finished it last night.
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
I just finished my last day last night because I'm not going to risk COVID like this in inside building with no mask.
Gotcha.
Even vaccinated.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I was wondering, has anyone run any numbers on the deaths since January or February or so from COVID? Because there's, I think, a answer. Like, I think that the swing states and the Republican led states, they're experiencing most of the deaths and the new cases. And this could be electorally practically something to be analyzed now.
Well, it is going to appreciate the call, Brian. Your phone's not great. It is worse in the very reddest states, the states where guys like Ron DeSantis, don't even want cruise ships to have vaccine passports. I believe Norwegian Cruise Line did get a court order or did get court's permission to continue with their policy. I know that the U.S. military now, according to news I saw today, they're going to have forced vaccinations for all members of the military. But Brian, here in the state of Wisconsin, I know the governor doesn't have any mandates left to offer. Republicans have already fought this through the courts. And if you found the right restaurant, and this will happen soon, it's going to be vaccine mandates. If you want to come into a private business and you want to sit down and eat a nice dinner, you're going to have to prove you're vaccinated. And Republicans are going to lose their mind, but so what? So what? As a private business owner, you have the right to run your business the way you would so choose. And obviously, it's difficult if you're in a public-facing industry like a server at a restaurant, but you can still wear a mask. I don't think anyone's employers are telling them they're not permitted to wear a mask, or it's good environment for the worker, man. Find a new job if you can't wear a mask, if your boss won't let you. Tom, you had a thought?
Nope. Very concerning. Thanks for the call, Brian. We'll come back more on Donald Trump, the very concerning timeline, the obsession. I don't think I've ever seen Donald Trump work so hard as he did trying to overturn this election, for real.
My wife actually prefers when I wear a mask. She's made that quite clear. Bag over my head. Even better. Come back.
Please.
More devils.
Boy, this looks like very big stuff.
It is pitchfork and torches time in America.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
The Devil's Advocates are taking the political party back to State Street to Madison's party destination, Hawks Bar and Grill. Tuesday, August 24th, the Devil's Advocates broadcast live from Hawks 2 to 5 p.m. And then the Summer Lovin' Party really begins. You're going to want to get your share. Inferior radio shows would be exhausted after this many parties. But the Devil's Advocates have prayed our whole lives for this. We were built for Summer Lovin'. Come to Hawks Bar and Grill. Tuesday, August 24th, party with the Devil's Advocates and get your Summer Lovin' on.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by Move On.
Coronavirus shots and the military. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The Pentagon will soon require members of the military to get the COVID-19 vaccine beginning September 15th or perhaps earlier. Spokesman John Kirby.
It's a big muscle movement, and the Secretary wants to give the services ample time to prepare for that, as well as the force.
The start date could be moved up if vaccines receive final FDA approval or if infection rates continue to rise. New York Assembly member Charles Levine, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, says his panel still has a lot of work to do as it considers bringing impeachment charges against Governor Andrew Cuomo.
After the committee has completed its review of the evidence, it will make a recommendation to the full assembly on whether to proceed with impeachment against Governor Cuomo. We anticipate that this process will be concluded very soon.
I'm Tim McGuire.
Hey, y'all, this is your girl, Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for Meemaw and Peepaw and all the other maws and paws visiting the close to 4 million grandbabies born last year who've only seen you on a laptop. For all the bubbies, nanas, and papas ready to finally get your arms around those little loves, Motel 6 offers clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. We'll even call you Giga if you want. I'm Tom Bobo Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. This summer, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos appointed former conservative Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman to oversee a probe into the 2020 presidential election in Wisconsin, which Joe Biden won. Gableman has repeatedly stated he is not looking to overturn last fall's election, but rather restore Wisconsinites' faith in the election process. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is reporting that at a rally last fall after the election, Gableman spoke to a crowd of former President Donald Trump supporters and said, quote, "Our elected leaders, your elected leaders, have allowed unelected bureaucrats at the Wisconsin Elections Commission to steal our vote," end quote. Speaker Vos has said the probe will remain confidential, but recently expanded the authority of Gableman's probe after former law enforcement officials on the probe quit without explanation. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Well, turn it up, man.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back, Fancy Brian. Been missing you most of all, big fella. Dominic, we have promised to lay out this timeline. We're going to leave plenty of time to do so. Aaron Blake, the journalist, Trump's pressure campaign to overturn the 2020 election, a timeline. And Dom, you're going to have to share with me, you know, because reading alouding on a Monday is not my strong suit.
Oh man, we'll work on this together, man.
But this is very important. And, you know, unlike me, Rachel Maddow, I am no Rhodes Scholar, but I could read aloud with the best of them when it is so damn damning. But let me read the preliminary article and then we'll jump into the timeline. Congress has begun taking testimony from top officials who bore witness to President Donald Trump's desperate efforts to commandeer the Justice Department to overturn the 2020 election based upon lies and misinformation. 7 months after the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, we continue to learn many new details of those and related efforts. Those details paint an increasingly clear picture of the concerted effort to lay a predicate for overturning or at least halting Congress's acceptance of the results after Trump's claim repeatedly and overwhelmingly failed in courts of law. The effort include attempts to politically weaponize the Justice Department and apply pressure on federal, state, and local officials in the service of that goal. The latest revelations. First, Justice Department officials rejected a highly unorthodox and far-flung effort by Trump loyalists in their midst. Acting Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark, that guy, they have Georgia's state legislature call a special session to potentially reverse Joe Biden's win there. And second, Trump told Justice Department officials around the same time, according to notes from former acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue, to just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressmen. Donahue and former acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen have both testified behind closed doors, though transcripts have yet to be released. Given how many moving parts are involved, it can be difficult to keep track of. So below, Dominic, is a timeline, and we'll keep updating according to Aaron Blake, as will the Devil's Advocates, because this is some damning stuff, buddy.
And I think it only paints part of the picture, but let's see what we can get to. November 13th, all the way back November 13th of 2020, Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, calls Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, and asks him whether he has the power to toss out all mail ballots in certain counties, according to Raffensperger. He later called an attempt to exclude legally cast ballots. It sure looked like he was wanting to go down that road, Raffensperger recalled.
Now, Dominic, we do have some sound back from when this originally happened. Let's not forget. But let's hold off for right now, because I think that timeline was right around the first of the year, and we got some details between.
Yeah, man, that doesn't happen for like a few more weeks. We got more meat on the bone, baby.
Okay, November 17th, Trump calls 2 Republican canvassers in Detroit-based Wayne County, Michigan, shortly before they briefly rescind their votes to certify the election results. I'm sure no cause and effect there.
No, sort of getting calls from the president. November 19th, Crudy, Trump invites top Republican legislators from Michigan to meet with him at the White House, prompting them to state that they haven't seen anything to call into question their state's election results.
December 1st, Attorney General William Barr says in an interview that he, and this is a direct quote, has not seen fraud on the scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. How dare he? Barr later attends a previously scheduled meeting with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. And Mark Meadows, he's complicit here as well.
Oh, he's all over, yep.
And is called to meet with Trump as well. Barr reiterates what he said in the interview, adding, according to a new book by the Washington Post, Carol Leonnig and Philip Rucker, we've looked into these things and they're nonsense. Well, that didn't stop Trump, did it, Dom?
Well, it's not about nonsense. It's about him saving his ass and staying in the White House, regardless of his nonsense or not. Crudy, in early December, Trump calls the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Brian Cutler, twice to talk about overturning that state's results. Cutler informs Trump that the state legislature has no power to do so, according to an aide.
Trump calls on December 5th, Trump calls Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, a Republican, to pressure him to get the legislature to overturn the state's election results. I mean, how many states are we up to now? He's reached out to the people in Wayne County, Michigan. So that's Michigan. He's already interceded in Pennsylvania, calling the House of Representatives, the Speaker, the Republican there. And now we've moved on to Georgia. He's called the Georgia governor. 3 states so far. And we're only up to December 5th, Dom.
He called me. I didn't call him.
On December 14th, Crudy, the Electoral College finalizes its votes, paving the way for Biden's election and sending them to Congress. Separately, Trump announces Barr will soon step down as Attorney General, putting Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen in line to replace him.
Dominic, on December 15th, Trump hosts Rosen in the Oval Office and reportedly tells him he wants the Justice Department to file legal briefs supporting Trump's allies' election lawsuit. Trump also urges Rosen, and this is like the day he's getting hired, right? Doesn't even have the job yet, just announced the predecessor's leaving. He's already pressuring the guy. Trump also urges Rosen to appoint special counsels to investigate his baseless claims, including ones involving voting machine company Dominion. Rosen refuses and reiterates what Barr said about the lack of evidence for such steps. In addition, Trump, who had recently become aware, someone read an excerpt from the Constitution to him. Trump, who had recently become aware of Vice President Mike Pence generally ceremonial role in presiding over the Congress in formalizing the Electoral College votes, and decides Pence is his best chance to overturn the election. He tells allies to pressure Pence, and the topic will come up frequently in their conversations for the following 3 weeks. That again, Don, was December 15th, the same day that Barr is announced as leaving the job, and Trump pressures Rosen, the new acting attorney general, at least the guy that will be. Here's what I'm going to need from you.
3 days later, Curdy, on December 18th, Trump and top aides meet with conspiracy theorist supporters, including Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell, who discuss a number of extreme measures to overturn the election results, including instituting martial law, and seizing voting machines.
Well, martial law was more of Flynn's theory, and Sidney Powell, who is being sued by Dominion for defamation in her own regard, like $1.6 billion. She was more down for the voting machines, I suspect. On December 22nd, Meadows, again, this is Trump's chief of staff, visits Cobb County, Georgia, goes to Georgia, where the Georgia Secretary of State's office later says it prevented him from entering a room where signature audits were being conducted. During the visit, Meadows meets with Georgia's lead elections investigator, Francis Watson. Holy schmoly, why is he going to Georgia now?
A little pressure campaign from the president. Crudy, a few days later on December 22nd, I'm sorry, you got that. On the next day, December 23rd, Trump calls Watson and urges her to search hard for election fraud. When the right answer comes out, you'll be praised, Trump said in a recording of the call, adding, you have the most important job in the country right now. Trump says he called at Meadows' request. Watson later says she was shocked the president called her, but didn't feel pressured.
Now, we've got a little bit of this latter sound. This I had not heard before, but Fancy Brian, he dug it out for us. Play, if you would, the sound that was released in March, but first time I've heard it today. Fancy, play cut one.
People will say, great, because that's what it's about, that ability to check and to make it right, because everyone knows it's wrong.
One more, cut 121, please. Trump on the phone with a Georgia elections official.
When the right answer comes out, you'll be praised.
You'll be praised.
So Meadows goes and visits, again, this is Francis Watson, the Cobb County election official, local elections investigator, Francis Watson. The next day after Meadows goes down there, well, Trump's on the phone with her.
The personal touch.
Also on that day, the 23rd of December, Barr departs as Attorney General, elevating Rosen to acting Attorney General.
Barr couldn't get out of there to spend time with family quick enough, could he?
Oh, man.
December 27th, Trump calls Rosen and top Justice Department officials. According to Donahue's notes, Rosen pushes back on Trump's entries, saying the department can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election. Trump responds that the department should just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressmen. Again, I'd like to know specifically which ones Trump referenced. In the meeting, Trump also seems to threaten to replace the Justice Department leaders. He says, per Donahue's notes, people tell me the acting head of the department's civil division, Jeff Clark, is great. I should put him in. People want me to replace the DOJ leadership. That'd be like me sitting here saying, people tell me Earl's great and I should replace Dom with Earl.
Right. Crudy, the next day, the very next day.
I get that frequently from lots of people.
Oh, man, I love Earl. Clark is great, right? Well, the next day, great Clark. Well, he circulates a draft letter in which the Justice Department would urge Georgia's legislature to hold a special session based on supposed irregularities in the vote. The letter includes what amounts to a roadmap for Georgia to overturn its election results, suggesting the legislature might ultimately choose a new slate of electors, i.e., for Trump. Donahue rejects the idea out of hand, noting in his email response that the supposed irregularities the department was investigating are of such small scale that they simply would not impact the outcome of the presidential election. He adds, there is no chance that I would sign this letter or anything remotely like this. And he says sending the letter is not even within the realm of possibility.
But Dom, that was before late December. Rosen, who has discovered Clark is engaging in unauthorized conversations with Trump. Again, Jeffrey Clark, this is the wannabe Benedict Arnold, right? Speaks with him about the matter, speaks with Clark about the matter, according to Rosen's closed-door testimony as reported by the New York Times. Clark says he will stop meeting with Trump and won't do it anymore. And that brings us to December 29th, buddy.
Crudy, on December 29th, the Trump aide, Molly Michael, emails Rosen, Donahue, and other Justice Department officials a draft of a potential Supreme Court filing that would have involved Justice Department challenging the election results in 6 key states. Michael says Trump asked her to send the draft. That was news to me as well.
Well, there's a little bit more there.
Separately,
fella.
Meadows meets with Justice Department officials and mentions a baseless theory that a company in Italy combined with the CIA to rig the election.
Okay, on December 30th, Meadows emails Rosen twice about theories about the election, including a translated letter from an Italian man with similar accusations involving advanced military encryption capabilities. And separately, Meadows aide Cassidy Hutchinson asked Georgia Deputy Secretary of State Jordan Fuchs in a phone call whether there's anything the White House could do to show its appreciation for those conducting the state's audit, according to Reuters.
On
How
December
do we properly show our appreciation?
That's a great question. On December 31st, scrutiny, Pence asked a judge to reject a lawsuit that aimed to expand his power to help overturn the election. Trump becomes livid.
On January 1st, Meadows emails Rosen several times with theories about the election. He forwards Rosen a YouTube video of a former intelligence official who also promoted the idea the election was stolen using satellites in Italy. Rosen shares the email with Donahue, who responds, pure insanity. Rosen states that he has learned the man behind the video, Brad Johnson, was working with Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, but that he had declined a requested meeting with Johnson. Shortly after the above email, Meadows again emails Rosen about signature matching anomalies in Fulton County, Georgia, and suggests Rosen have Clark specifically look into it. Rosen tells Donahue of the email, can you believe this? You know what? I'm not going to respond to this message blow. Donahue responds, apparently referring to the Italian satellites theory. At least it's much better than the last one, which doesn't say much. Come back with us a little more in this timeline. It is truly troubling. Oh man, this guy was obsessed. And this Clark guy, when is his indictment coming down? More Devil's Advocate.
And we can all look in a mirror, find some blame somewhere.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungeratAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
I'm not a big fan of righty-whitey talk radio, but if I'm going to tune in even for an hour a day, I really wish they'd have a live host. You know, they've still got a Rush Limbaugh show, and the guy's been dead for a couple months.
Playing like Best of Dead Rush.
Do you know how weird that is? I make you this promise, Dom, after I'm dead, you don't have to keep playing my sound bites. Although I'm hoping you go first.
The Devil's Advocates, weekdays from 2 to 5.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. We'll get to them eventually. Be patient, folks. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the Aaron Blake piece at the Washington Post, this damning timeline of Trump. I mean, it was a constant pressure campaign, and this only takes us up to the insurrection on January 6th. I don't think he stopped. Hell, man, you see some of the press releases he's dropping over the weekend, including one about the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I know. Terrible.
Okay, here we go. Back to the timeline. Just a few days left here, Dom. Where do I want to jump
January
in?
2nd. On January 2nd. Yeah.
Well,
let me just
I don't even
we got
think
some
we made
sound
it
of
all the
this.
way through January 1st yet.
There was another theory on January 1st. Meadows promotes involves New Mexico, which went for Biden by more than 10 points. You know, all this Italian satellite stuff. On January 2nd, now we know this call. We have some sound. We'll play it once again to remind everybody. Trump speaks with Georgia's Raffensperger and urges him to find enough votes to call Biden's victory there into question. We have some sound. Brian, you pulled it. Let's start at the beginning. I think maybe cut 100. We'll eventually get to that very specific quote, if you would, please.
The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
I agree with everything you say, but unfortunately, you're wrong. Let's hear some more. Cut 101.
Do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines.
I saw it on the internet because if there's nothing that Donald Trump does, he knows how to surf the internet. I mean, way better than the Justice Department.
Yeah, but here in the very next cut we'll play, Trump has a very specific ask. This isn't just some off-the-wall, random crazy. He knows exactly what he wants from Raffensperger. Play it for the people. Cut 103.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
That would put him in first place in Georgia by one vote, literally. He was trailing at the time by 11,779 votes, Dom. It's a pretty specific ask. He knows what he's asking.
According to Blake at the Post, he goes on to say, so what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. I mean, it could be Rodney Dangerfield saying this. On January 3rd, Crudy, Trump, who had entertained a plan to oust Rosen as acting attorney general and install Clark, abandons the idea after a meeting with Justice Department officials who warned of mass high-profile resignations if Trump pursued the scheme. Late that night, after the Post broke news of the Raffensperger call, the White House leaves a voicemail stating that Trump would like to speak with Clint Hickman, the then chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in Arizona.
We're up to 4 states now.
Hickman declines to return the call, believing he would be pressured, as Raffensperger was. I mean, you can't even get the chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to call you the president back. I mean, how far have you fallen?
Dominic, January 4th, BJ Pack, the Trump appointed U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, abruptly resigns after finding himself in Trump's crosshair. Trump had complained that Pack wasn't investigating voter fraud aggressively enough, leading Donahue to privately suggest that Pack resigned. Trump bypasses Pack's top deputy, who would normally succeed Pack, appointing instead U.S. Attorney for Georgia's Southern District, Bobby L. Christine. Christine would later tell staff members that there's just nothing to the claims of fraud in that area.
On January 5th, Crudy, Trump angrily vents to Pence and aides about Pence's refusal to toe his line on rejecting electors. He also takes the effort public, tweeting, "The vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors."
I would remind you, my little buddy, it was January 5th of 2021 that 15 Wisconsin elected Republicans wrote a letter to the vice president pressuring him to do exactly that. 14 assembly members and Andre Jacques, one Republican senator. I mean, they were all down for this sort of insurrection, Dom. January 5th, Trump, you already read that, right?
Yeah, you're on 6.
Okay, so the day of the big insurrection. January 6, 2021, Trump speaks with Pence multiple times in the morning and presses his case on overturning the election. So on the day of the insurrection, Pence can't catch a break from the president, the former now. Pence continues to refuse, eventually releasing a statement saying he cannot do what he's being asked to do. That, again, was on Insurrection Day. No wonder why they wanted to hang Mike Pence. In the early afternoon, the U.S. Capitol is overrun by Trump supporters seeking to overturn the election. Shortly after speeches by Trump, Giuliani, and other promoters of baseless claims that the election was stolen. During the riot, as Congress still hadn't finished its business, Trump attacks Pence in a tweet. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what he should have done to protect our country and our Constitution. Trump says that was about the last time he had a Twitter account, right, Dom?
Mm-hmm.
The tweet came shortly after Pence was evacuated amidst the unrest, and apparently after Trump spoke with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy about the severity of the situation. Rioters were later revealed to have chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." And what do you tell Kevin McCarthy? Reportedly, Dom, Trump said something to the effect, well, apparently, they love me more than you do, Kevin.
They're a little more concerned about the election than you are, Kevin. The Times, Kurt, of course, the big question here, one of the many, many questions, what happens to Clark? The DOJ guy who was all in with us. As details of Clark's actions emerge, it is unclear, writes the New York Times, what, if any, consequence he could face. The Justice Department's Inspector General could make a determination about whether Clark crossed the line into potentially criminal behavior. In that case, the Inspector General could refer the matter to federal prosecutors.
Should we get to a quick call? Do we have time?
Sure, we
Let's
got
try.
a minute. Let's
Mark, welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Hey, Mark.
Sorry, guys.
Scamper to the phone and tell us what you're thinking, fella.
No, it's ridiculous. That and first off, I was wondering if the wife prefers a ball gag for you, Crudy, underneath your mask.
I don't know, but sometimes I do. The man talks a lot, Mark.
But yeah, I mean,
bring out the gimp.
You have to try all these guys for treason. Each and every single one of them. Each and every one of them. I mean, you had to find out if they were participating in this, and you try them for treason, pure and simple. I mean, they've already got enough documentation to hang all their asses, but I'll leave it there.
Well, you already crossed the ball gag line, man.
You're right.
Come back with us. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates. Just because he was right on the money doesn't mean he should have brought it up.
We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
What? What? I couldn't hear that last part.
Bring out the gimp.
Hey, how's it going? Come down to 550 State Street. At Knuckleheads, we're your one-stop shop for all your CBD, glass, hookah, cigar needs. We got deals like buy 4, get 1 free on papers, cones, CBD carts. Too many things to list. Call 608-284-0151. Ask a friendly neighborhood knucklehead any questions. Or check out the website, knuckleheadcbd.com. Knuckleheads at 550 State Street. We got you covered. I'm Lindell Commando, and I'll see you there.
Chad's Design Build is proud to sponsor the Summer of Love on Devil Radio. We are committed to our community to demand better for each and every person. Doing the right thing isn't necessarily easy or inexpensive, but when we take the time to listen and learn, we can build a better community. Thoughtful remodeling is a lot like building an effective, progressive coalition. It takes patience, intelligence, and love. Experience helps too. Thank you, Joe Biden, and thank you, Devil Radio. On behalf of Chad's Design Build, here's to the Summer of Love.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
News. I'm Tim McGuire. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expects the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill to soon pass.
Last night, an overwhelming bipartisan majority of senators voted to surmount the final few procedural hurdles and put the bill on a glide path for passage tomorrow morning.
Schumer also talks about the Democrats' $3.5 trillion budget bill.
The Democratic budget will be the most significant legislation for American families since the era of the New Deal and the Great Society. It is big, bold change.
There is funding for healthcare, education, family services, and environmental programs, much of it paid for through tax increases on the wealthy and corporations. A UN-sponsored study by hundreds of climate scientists around the world finds global warming increasing to levels that it could bypass a rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius in about 10 years, unless the emission of greenhouse gases isn't quickly reduced. NOAA's Co Barrett.
It is indisputable that human activities are causing climate change. Human influence is making extreme climate events, including heat waves, heavy rainfall, and droughts, more frequent and severe. What's new in this report is that we can now attribute many more changes at the global and regional level to human influence.
As the planet warms, places will get hit by more than extreme weather, but by multiple climate disasters at once. The New York State Assembly Judiciary Committee continues its impeachment investigation of Governor Andrew Cuomo. Committee Chairman Charles Levine says that includes allegations of sexual misconduct and other possible charges, including
allegations that the governor improperly used state resources to write and produce a book, American Crisis: Leadership Lessons from the COVID-19 Pandemic.
This is AP News.
Hey, y'all, this is your girl, Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for Meemaw and Peepaw and all the other maws and paws visiting the close to 4 million grandbabies born last year who've only seen you on a laptop. For all the bubbies, nanas, and papas ready to finally get your arms around those little loves, Motel 6 offers clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. We'll even call you Giga if you want. I'm Tom Bobo Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
The Devil's Advocates are taking the political party back to State Street, to Madison's party destination, Hawks Bar and Grill. Tuesday, August 24th, the Devil's Advocates broadcast live from Hawks 2 to 5 p.m. and then the Summer Lovin' Party really begins. You're going to want to get your share. Inferior radio shows would be exhausted after this many parties, but the Devil's Advocates have prayed our whole lives for this. We were built for Summer Lovin'. Come to Hawks Bar and Grill Tuesday, August 24th. Party with the Devil's Advocates and get your Summer Lovin' on.
Are you interested in channeling your creative passions into a podcast? Maybe you've always wanted to start one, but you didn't know how. Chris here from the On the Bus podcast. Devil Radio is the perfect podcast platform for you motherfuckers out there in radio land.
Dude, you can't say that shit on the air.
What, I can't say
No.
I can say on the podcast. I can't say here.
Yeah, but FCC on the air, man.
To learn more about how the Devil Radio team can help you make your podcast a reality, give them a call at 608-819-8255 or check out devilradio927.com.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of the Atomic Koi. Come to the Koi and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Atomic Koi and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
This is Crudy, and I recommend calling Dave and the team at Community PC to solve all your computing needs. What do I call Community PC? Because I don't want to learn new things about tech. Because I don't want to call the manufacturer's customer service line and waste half a day of my life. Because I don't want to ask my kid for help and have him respond, okay, boomer. Just call Community PC at 608-268-7178 for their patient service. Just let Community PC fix it. 608-268-7178. Call today.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Friday afternoon, Governor Tony Evers signed 6 bills into law, including one provision that establishes use of force standards for law enforcement officers in Wisconsin and would require officials to report non-compliant uses of force. The governor touted the bill as a step in the direction of transparency and accountability, but stated there is still work to be done. Also on Friday, Governor Evers vetoed a Republican proposal that would have penalized local governments by cutting state aid to any community that decreased funding for police, firefighting, or medical first responders. Governor Evers said the proposal would micromanage and hamstring local decision-making. Forecast of thunderstorms throughout the day today with winds up to 10 miles an hour and the potential for gusting winds. High today of 80 degrees. Clouds expected this evening with a stray storm possible and an overnight low of 67 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Again, it's a Monday, Dom. I didn't know if you knew, but it's still a Monday edition, so, I'll take my time if I want to.
It's your party.
Something like that. Dom, I would point out, we talked quite a bit about the obsessed timeline of the former president, the pressure campaign. I mean, at least 4 individual states, and one must question how many individual Republican lawmakers here in the state of Wisconsin got calls as well, because 15 of them wrote a letter to Mike Pence on January 5th, the very day before the insurrection. But anyways,
well, and I also want to throw out there here quickly, if I may, Curdy. And we talked about the pressure campaign being applied to the Pentagon and working with folks inside, Department of Justice, and him working with this Jeffrey Clark inside the Department of Justice. Well, my other, big problems there. But what I don't know about is what kind of interaction he had with the Pentagon, right? We do know that after the attempted coup, the Trump terrorists sacked the Capitol. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, all 8 members, came out with a letter saying, we are opposed to the January 6th insurrection. A very, very surprising thing to have been done. So
do you think
specific pushback against what Trump has been obviously been wanting, but that's only part of it, man. So I wonder, because of course he's the commander in chief. He could reach out to whoever he chooses to, in the military. And I'd really like to know what kind of conversations he's been having, to detailed going back months with his cohorts over at the Pentagon.
You think him and Mark Meadows want to take a couple of, Black Hawks out for a test drive? Maybe
absolutely.
Some M1 tanks out on DC.
Like a nice parade, just like they do in all the fascist dictatorial countries.
It really hasn't stopped yet, Dom. It's still going on, even this weekend. And the headline here, I think appropriate over at the Raw story. This is stupid even for you. Trump ridiculed for bizarre new claim he may have won Wisconsin. Well, let me, dispel any of those rumors, Trump. You did not win Wisconsin. But why would he feel this way, Dom? What is his newest delusion?
Well, of course, as was reported last week, the Wisconsin Election Commission went through and purged a bunch of votes from the rolls, right? They purged the rolls. I believe voters who had not engaged in the process for 4 years were removed from the rolls.
Reacting to a report out of Wisconsin that 205,000 voter registrations were dropped from the books because voters, as you mentioned, Dom, had not voted in the past 4 years. Former President Donald Trump bizarrely insisted Saturday morning that could mean he won the state in the 2020 presidential election. Earlier in the week, The Hill reported deactivating voter registrations in Wisconsin is a routine practice required by law every 2 years as part of the state's voter record maintenance, according to the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Now, it has been contentious. We have had some lawsuits about this. The effort identifies individuals who have not voted in the previous 4 years and deactivates their registrations unless they want to remain on the voter rolls, which typically means a postcard that no one ever responds to ever. But here's the good news. If you're a Wisconsinite and you're hearing my voice and you're worried you may have been deactivated, we have same-day voter registration. You can get back on the voter rolls at any given time before any given election or even on election day here in the state of Wisconsin. So all things considered, troubling when you hear of the purging of hundreds of thousands of voters, but not really, because they can solve this problem if they want to vote again. Regardless of the facts, Trump issued a statement through spokesperson Liz Harrington on Twitter, because, he doesn't have his own account, Dom, insisting the purge may even mean he won Wisconsin's 10 electoral college votes. According to the one-term president, Wisconsin's just canceled 205,000 voter registrations because they say they could not find the voters. Why did they wait until after the election? Would this mean that we would have won Wisconsin? ? Congratulations! !
No, that's not at all what it means. I mean, you do not get purged unless you have not exercised your constitutional right or duty, if nothing else, to go cast a vote, right? So the very nature of the group he's talking about did not engage in voting on the last election. So no, you freaking moron, that's not how it works. And this is what really gets me about all this. The credibility. The man has zero credibility. And I know maybe for the cultists that doesn't mean anything. But when you get something so basic, so fundamental, wrong, how can you believe anything this guy says? I mean, literally, and all the things he gets wrong. Because, of course, it doesn't matter to his cultists whether or not he's wrong. 200,000 people who didn't vote in the last election would not have swayed the election to you, sir. Come on.
Dominic, if loving Trump is wrong, I don't want to be right. Here's a different press release. He sent this one out this morning, but it comes back to a common theme for Trump. It's going to go in the weeds just for a moment. Bear with me. Got this one from the Save America PAC statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th president of the United States of America. His spokesperson, Liz Harrington, earlier today said that, there currently is no United States.
Oh, really?
We're sort of in this purgatory holding pattern until they fix the prior election. That's the premise of the Trump spokesperson. That's where they're coming from.
It would have been more sense if she just said, we're in America. America.
As Trump didn't tweet, but sent a press release shared by Liz Harrington, who apparently his job is tweeting on behalf of the former president, just reported that over 20% of the people coming across our southern border have coronavirus, sometimes referred to as the China virus. Wouldn't it be the Mexican virus in this case? But I read on. Many of them being immediately released into our communities. Then our government tells you how to mask up, use 3 if possible, and how to otherwise act as highly infected people pour into our country. Finish the wall in 1 month. Stop paying contractors billions of dollars for not building the wall, and stop allowing some of our worst prisoners and criminals anywhere in the world into our country. Are we talking about your team down at Trump International? I read on. Jails of other countries are being emptied into ours. Such a thing has never happened to any nation before. And then here it comes. This is what a rigged and corrupt presidential election gets you.
Wrong.
See how he brought it all the way around?
All the way. He's still out there saying these things, right? And there's still a receptive audience among the hardcore QAnon Republican fringe that believe him.
Well, hopefully not amongst our audience, but if you're out there, 844-967-2789. We'll take your calls. Philip Bump over at the Washington Post. Here's what's troubling, Dom. There's sort of this violent crew out there in this world right now that's very receptive to this message. Bump reports at the Washington Post. Trump's election conspiracies are coming to a head again. There's only one actual question about the next few weeks, as the estimated deadline offered by Donald Trump and his allies for his reinstatement as president comes and goes. How dangerous will it be? On Friday, the Department of Homeland Security released a bulletin warning state and local law enforcement officials of increasing chatter about potential violence that may occur during August of 2021. Nothing specific was mentioned, but an official who spoke with ABC News noted that the department was offering warnings because of how quickly a threat could emerge. The warnings stem from threats fueled in large part by conspiracy theories and other false narratives that are spread by domestic extremists through leaders, among others, according to the official. This misinformation is consumed by individuals who are predisposed to engage in violence. The bulletin itself was more direct. Some conspiracy theories associated with reinstating former President Trump have included calls for violence if desired outcomes are not realized. There are two immediate reasons that this moment has become a focal point for an election that ended 8 months ago. The first is that one of Trump's most fervent and vocal supporters, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, has repeatedly suggested that events in August would lead to Trump's reinstatement, something that is not within the realm of possibility under any scenario. Lindell's described route for Trump to return to the White House is, like his theory about how the 2020 presidential election was stolen, utter nonsense, according to Philip Bump. I would never say that, Dom. Unrooted from reality and heavily dependent on naive and uninformed analysis of complex systems, which Lindell is not familiar. He seems to think that he has evidence that the election was stolen. He does not. That will persuade the Supreme Court to intervene. It will not, and remove President Biden from office in Trump's favor. It cannot. Trump likes the idea, though, so he's been telling people about it, as is the case with Lindell. This is simply wish casting, hearing something that sounds pretty good and hoping that applying enough mental energy to it can make it happen. But both Trump and Lindell have substantial audiences who take these claims at face value, who either underestimate or fail to consider the extent to which this is impossible and untrue. Hell, he's got a whole cult full of them, doesn't he, Don?
He certainly does.
Come back with us. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's not a conspiracy. I mean, it's the truth, right? Trump's just out there telling his truth. And if it doesn't come true, how are you going to react to it? We saw that insurrection. That was a good start, but, with a little more force of will and maybe
I'm waiting for Friday the 13th, man. This Friday, the 13th, is when Lindell initially proclaimed that Donald Trump would somehow be reinstilled to the White House.
I thought they moved the date to September 18th.
You can't move it.
Into the World's coming tomorrow. Oh, it didn't happen? How about next week?
Is that
or
Eastern
September
or Central?
18th? Come back with us. We're the Devil's Advocates. 3 hours each day. Central, East, West, Pacific. Always cool.
And I love being in Wisconsin. I love being in Wisconsin. Thank you. Thank you.
Wrong!
It just shows what can happen with the wrong government.
Wrong!
Wisconsin Republicans have put forth a legislative proposal.
Oh, they're going to take the Medicaid money for like $2 billion?
No, not that one.
Oh.
That one's highly popular.
Oh, they're getting behind voting rights. That's awesome.
No, they've perhaps got differing advocacy on voting.
They finally come around on some gun safety legislation.
No, thoughts and prayers. That's our plan.
Well, then what have they been doing then?
Legalize marijuana. No.
Oh,
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Bullshit, nothing like it.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join MoveOn's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, explains why God kicked Trump out of the White House.
Oh,
this is a spiritual battle of epic proportions.
What?
There's going to be so many people coming to Jesus. It is Devil Radio, man. Suck it, God, in this case. Please don't strike me dead with lightning, God. So, I'm just doing it for the show's sake.
yeah, right.
Work with me on
It's
this.
all an act. You're hurting God right now, Rudy.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open 844-967-2789. We'll go there shortly. Let's wrap up this piece by Philip Bump at the Washington Post. The headline, Trump's election conspiracies are coming to a head again. Subheadline, the Department of Homeland Security offered a warning about the potential for new violence. One of those reasons, well, people like Lindell and his very fervent supporters have tagged August as the month where something could happen and somehow Trump, some way, will get into the White House. As Bump writes, the other reason that August looms large is that the partisan review of the election results in Maricopa County, Arizona, may soon release its findings. There's no mystery about what it will say, just about the scale of the allegations it will make and how much traction they will get, despite the near certainty that all of them will be quickly debunked. From the outset, the effort, framed as a sober audit, meant to assuage the concerns of people whose objection to the election results are rooted in frustration at the outcome and not any actual evidence, has been mired in obvious conflicts of interest and riddled with methodological flaws. Easy for me to say, and bad assumptions. As with the broad claim that rampant fraud occurred in 2020, it's barely worth even articulating the problems with the audit at this point. Either you accept that it is a fishing expedition being conducted by people whose primary credentials for being involved are a predisposition to erring on Trump's behalf, or you will simply refuse to accept the obvious reality. NPR has nonetheless provided such a walkthrough, allowing you to decide whether to take seriously an effort approved by partisans, criticized by local Republican officials, mired with already debunked false claims, trudging through truly wild conspiratorial territory, and led by a guy who still stands by the obviously false claims he made about the election before he was even tapped to run things in Arizona. The problem isn't that the audit will try to cast doubt on the election results. That's a certainty. The problem is that it's not clear what happens next. In June, I noted that the completion of the audit presented a moment similar to January 6th, months of allegations about fraud, culminating in a moment at which something might be expected to be done. The scale here is obviously different, but it's not clear that the expectations will be. Trump and folks like Lindell have been both promising that something would shake loose and presenting Arizona as the moment at which the first shaking would occur. What happens when it doesn't? It seems unlikely that Trump or Lindell will get the blame. So who will? Over the weekend, Trump world saw some integral griping that now seems useful to consider. Trump called into a right-wing yeller Dan Bongino's Fox News show, where he kept the audience up to date on his various gripes. That, of course, included complaints about the election. A quote, It's a disgrace what's happening, and I don't think the country's going to stand for it much longer, he said. They're disgusted. You have a fake election. You have an election with voter abuse and with voter fraud like nobody's ever seen before. And based on that and based on what happened, they're destroying our country. When Fox News later published the interview to YouTube, it edited the claims about voter fraud, prompting Trump spokeswoman Lynn Harrington to object. We heard a little bit about this before, some more from Harrington. This is just as bad as big tech, she said. They're putting President Trump's honest statement and the concerns of tens of millions of Americans down the memory hole. The point, of course, is that it's not an honest statement. It's false, unsupportable garbage. People started attacking Bongino on social media as though he had anything to do with clipping out the fraud parts, which, of course, he wouldn't have done. But someone at Fox did, which is interesting. It's hard not to assume that the network's lawyers have strongly recommended it avoid such allegations, given the lawsuit it faces from a voting machine manufacturer that has also sued Lindell. But it's useful to recognize that Fox wasn't worried about having people here. In the clip posted to YouTube, Trump's comments are trimmed to, "It's a disgrace what's happening. I don't think the country's going to stand for it much longer. They're disgusted. They're destroying our country." That message was fine to broadcast to Fox's audience, just not the falsehood on which it was directly predicated. It was okay for the former president, whose dishonesty led to the riot on January 6th, to suggest that the country was rightfully losing patience at being destroyed, not for him to repeat the already accepted rationale he has using as the basis for that sentiment. It's possible that we'll get to the end of the month without incident, reaching August 31st, with all this having been resolved quietly and peacefully. Biden will still be president, and perhaps Lindell and Trump will give up on their crusade. Maybe the Arizona claims will be presented and then go down the memory hole, as will almost certainly be deserved. But I remember an article I wrote on August 31st of 2020 called "The Dangerous Overconfidence of Trump Supporters." I outlined what might happen in the aftermath of last year's election. Here's a little insert from Philip Bump that he wrote apparently back on August 31st. Biden's campaign and other officials will encourage people to be patient, with hundreds of thousands of votes still outstanding. But what will many Trump supporters hear? They'll hear the apparent loser of the race and his allies and the media rejecting what they know to be true, that Trump won in the landslide. They'll hear that Trump's win and upending his opponent's national polling lead is being targeted with fraudulent mail ballots. They'll hear what Trump said would happen is in fact happening. What happens next? If recent weeks are any indication, tension may erupt into violence. And now back to today's article. Bump concludes, maybe this time it won't.
Or
maybe it will.
Right? That's the troubling unsaid part of that statement. Or maybe it will. Maybe it will. That's the problem, Don. You know, you think these are morons, and they're out there living in the trailer somewhere, and they're still waving their Trump flags and wearing their MAGA hats, and they're convinced, you know, because the guy keeps telling the lie. And some people want the lie to be true. And I don't think that most Republicans, I believe with Adam Kinzinger and the statement he made, most Republican electeds, they don't believe the lie. They don't believe this. They're just going along because A, it's a good grift. They get to fundraise on it. And B, because they have some abject fear of Donald Trump, the guy who lost the election, who keeps claiming he won. If they just acknowledge he lost, maybe they'd alleviate the fears they have of Donald Trump. But, you know, that's twisted logic, Tom. I'd keep supporting the big lie. I'd keep forcing audits. Hell, I'd wait for the insurrection, you know, the next one to come. Because, you know, what's the worst that can happen? More Devil's Advocates phone lines open. Your call's next. 844-967-2789.
This election was rigged. This election is a total fraud.
And I'm serious. If you have any moral character about you, we're all in this together.
So thank you.
From Wisconsin Dells to Dousman, WTTN 1580 AM is essential radio to get you through the pandemic.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
5 Nines, your local single source IT solutions provider.
Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 5.
Coronavirus update. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says all members of the military are required to get the COVID-19 vaccine starting September 15th, if not earlier. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby.
What we would call in the military a warning order to the force that this is coming, and we want you to be ready for it as well. And obviously, we prefer that that you get the vaccine now and not wait for the mandate.
Intensive care units and hospitals in the Houston area are close to capacity. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee tells KTRK hospitals are also dealing with a nursing shortage.
There are patients being dropped off at the community's hospitals that have to be rejected or have to sit in a lobby until a nurse can be assigned. Not a nurse that's sleeping, not a nurse that is inattentive, but there are not enough nurses.
I'm Tim McGuire.
Hey, y'all, this is your girl, Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for Meemaw and Peepaw and all the other maws and paws visiting the close to 4 million grandbabies born last year who've only seen you on a laptop. For all the bubbies, nanas, and papas ready to finally get your arms around those little loves, Motel 6 offers clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. We'll even call you Giga if you want. I'm Tom Bobo Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Friday, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services reported 1,206 new daily cases of COVID-19, bringing the 7-day rolling average of new cases to the highest it's been since the end of January. DHS is also reporting that all Wisconsin counties are now experiencing high COVID-19 activity. Over the weekend, the National Weather Service confirmed 2 tornadoes touched down in southern Wisconsin on Saturday evening, one in Grant County and one in Iowa County. The Grant County tornado was classified as a severe EF3 tornado that experienced peak winds of 150 miles an hour and destroyed 6 homes. The Iowa County tornado was classified as a moderate EF1 tornado that ran through mainly rural areas and damaged 2 barns. According to the National Weather Service, no injuries were reported from either storm. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Welcome back to the Devil Advocates Radio Show, the Monday edition. Enough reading aloud and for now, Dom, going to the lines always. All about the lines at 844-967-2789. Our pal Pizza Box Michael. Mike, you were out there amongst the Trump supportive this weekend. Remind our audience what you saw.
Well, the best part was the wedgie that Voss took, man. I want to ask him if it was Colby.
Speaker Robin Voss, the Republican leader of the Assembly, was quite a target for David A. Clark and Icky Vicky McKenna, all Dom's friends, and they had a little rally at the Capitol. My understanding, Michael, thousands in attendance, although you were a little skeptical about the head count.
Thousands? No, it was. I thought I gave it a heavy count. I said several hundred. I mean, I've been to a lot of rallies. You guys have too. They didn't have enough to fill the west side of the steps or anything. It was spread out a bit. I'd say several hundred, maybe 350.
Social distancing and deference to the Delta variant, you think, Michael?
Probably not.
By me, of course, yeah. Not the rest of them.
Do you see any strap supporters of the former president? Anyone brandishing their AR-15s? I've seen that at prior rallies.
No, that was kind of weird. I didn't feel too nervous because of that. But, I mean, they're going to have that, nationwide prayer on the 12th. And I do believe you're right, Dom, that they predicted the 13th, and it is a Friday. I'm not so sure something isn't going to happen this week, or at least somewhere down the road. Trump's not going to quit. He's just such a coward. He knows he doesn't want to go to prison.
Well, it doesn't cost him nothing to turn on the insurrectionist faction of his cult. If anything, he thinks he's
making money by
some people.
Yeah, man. He can scare people. Money. He can lie to people, Mike, and he can convince them that they need to give him money. And that's what he's been doing. $100 million he got in the first 6 months.
And they don't have to advertise too much. I mean, they've already done that. Back in November, we knew January 6th was happening. Who's to say that all these, fringe far right guys aren't going to all put it together sometime soon and attack all different capitals or something? I just don't think that they're ready to go away. Look, Trump made it easy for stupid to have a voice and not be embarrassed.
It's a hell of a way to put it, Mike.
I think it goes beyond stupid. I think it goes to the point of dangerous. Michael, appreciate your call. Perhaps this news will take you gentlemen off the edge of the cliff. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has directed his company's ad buyer to stop placing ads on Fox News after a reported disagreement over a commercial promoting an event linked to his repeated claims of voter fraud. Apparently, they don't want to run his cyber symposium ad. Dom, we've been questioning, when's the event? Well, we won't find out watching Fox News. Lindell, one of the network's largest advertisers, in recent years wanted to place an ad promoting a cyber symposium that he's scheduled to live stream next month. The Wall Street Journal reported the CEO told the Journal the commercial would not have specifically mentioned claims of election fraud, but he also reportedly said the symposium would back up former President Trump's claims of a stolen election. Fox confirmed in a statement to The Hill on Thursday evening that MyPillow would pause its ads on the network. MyPillow did not immediately respond to a request for comments, but here is how Fox News bemoaned the fact. It's unfortunate Mr. Lindell has chosen to pause his commercial time on Fox News, given the level of success he's experienced in building his brand through advertising on the #1 cable news network. A Fox spokesperson said, Dom, if you're unaware, Lindell has been one of the most prominent backers of former president's claims about widespread electoral fraud led to a rigged election that swayed it in President Biden's favor. So anyways, man, when is the symposium?
Pillows.
MyPillow spent $50 million on Fox News last year. $50 million. So when you pause your ads even for a month, that's like a $4 million a month pause. I bet they noticed that. He has shelled out another $19 million in the first 7 months of 2021. That's about $70 million in advertising. No wonder why they love the electoral fraud he claims. Keep running the ads, Mike. Soon as he stops running the ads, I bet all this talk of electoral fraud's damn near over. Because Trump's not paying anybody, and if Lindell's not paying the freight, who's going to perpetrate the lie?
I don't watch, and I'm not real up on the current ad campaign for the crazy ass MyPillow guy, but I would imagine generally just advertising the pillows, he's not talking about voter fraud, right? When he's advertising whatever his product line is.
Mike Lindell advertises on the local CBS affiliate here in Madison between my Gary Canolti doing the weather in an over snug sport coat and the Stephen Colbert show. Damn near every night there's a Mike Lindell MyPillow commercial. And the only thing in common is, I swear to God, everyone in those commercials probably voted for Trump. They just have that sort of older, diluted look in their eye, like, Mike told us if we did the ads, he'd see to the fact that Trump would become president again.
Buy MyPillow, put Trump back in office. I could see if he was running ads like that. No, but Fox News took specific issue with him running ads for his cyber symposium, right? Not the pillows.
Apparently, it's the cyber symposium, a $1.6 billion lawsuit, a little dissuasive. almost like Dominion votings had a chilling prior effect on Fox's decision not to run the Mike Lindell pillow.
Oh, it's almost like if you lie
million
about
a month compared to 1.6 billion. Sorry, Mike, we're done running the cyber symposium ads.
It's going to take some time to make that up with volume.
You could run them right here, sir. Bring your 4 million down. We'll make some room for you right here on Devil Radio. 844-967-2789. Hell, I'll be telling you about the voter fraud. Dick from Madison, how you doing, man?
Hey, Dick. No, you won't, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything for a buck. After that 9 hours of testimony this weekend, I definitely want to hear from Bill Barr again. If we don't, and wouldn't you love to have VP Harris doing the questioning? But I've got an idea for these crazy people. How about, since Florida and Texas is so messed up again, give Trump and Ron DeSantis, Texas and Florida, they can be the president of that country. I don't know what you'd call it. And then, Governor Abbott, he could be Secretary of Propaganda. Mike Lindell could be the head of mental health. On and on we go. We just, and then you can have it state all to themselves. Now, hear this out. And then when they get bored, of course, Trump will take them all over to Disneyland and go into the presidential gallery there, and he'll take all the other presidents out except him and the second behind him, Lincoln.
There were some Texans not so long ago, Dick, that once again brought up the idea of seceding from the Union.
Well, sure. So that's what I'm saying. Until they get this cleared up, with this COVID situation being so out of control, let them go down there and run these two states and call it a country. Call it Trumpville.
COVID country. Let me ask you, Dick, with regards to the former Attorney General. We see this testimony given by Jeffrey Rosen, specifically about Jeffrey Clark and his efforts and his conversations with the president. Do you imagine Jeffrey Clark being called in front of, hell, even the Senate Judicial Committee or this other committee put up in the House, or Bill Barr for that matter, anybody from the DOJ? You think they wouldn't show up? You think they'd fight a subpoena? You think they take the fifth?
Well, and then what does that say? What does Trump
exactly?
If you plead the fifth, you're guilty. There you go. But no, the Barr, he's in this right up until a couple of days before Christmas when he finally, he's the only one that legally knows how bad he stepped in it, and that's why he left. And he wasn't about ready to go totally overboard. But other people may have, and maybe close to did. And here you are.
And his name was Jeffrey Clark.
Jeffrey
At
Clark.
least one of. Real quick, I referenced this story before. I'd hate to not get it out there for your consideration, audience. 844-967-2789. Please consider calling us. But here's the one I referenced briefly, Dom. Raw story reporting President Donald Trump's spokesperson, Liz Harrington, appeared on OAN Monday to claim that Americans no longer have a country. While Trump is known for hyperbole, Harrington gave him a run for his money, claiming that until there is a repair to the so-called rigged election, America will somehow cease to exist.
That was nice while it lasted, folks.
A little bit more here. She claimed that, she claimed that any American that wants to talk about the 2020 election, I'm sorry, that's not grammatical. I don't understand what that
She claimed that all any American wants to talk about is the 2020 election. That's all we're talking about. A July Gallup poll shows that the top issue for Americans is the economy at 20%, COVID at 12%, and a slew of other concerns. The election and election reform ranks 3% among both those polled. 3%.
Why don't you just throw the ball gig on me already, Dom?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Just because I didn't understand one sentence in the article. Finally, Harrington said, "We won't have a country unless we resolve the 2020 election." Reminds me of a John Lennon song.
You know, it's at some point, right? Is there a point where people just dismiss it as crazy? I mean, how many? What do you need, right? I mean, that should be the question. What proof will you accept? Because if there's nothing at all, then let's just stop talking about it, and we're never going to solve the problem. But if you are open-minded, and you think that perhaps maybe guys like Lindell have no credibility, or maybe guys like Trump who've been lying to you forever, that they have no credibility, then maybe perhaps at some point you recognize that, man, I've really been sold a bill of goods here. If you are open to that concept, then you have to be one. Then I wonder, then what is the limitation? What is the proof you need? Because what they're providing you, they're not giving you any proof. We've done recounts. We've done an audit of. They're mandated here in the state of Wisconsin. A select few of the voting machines are audited. I mean, we go through processes because we're concerned about, as everybody always is, to make sure that when we cast the votes, our votes are counted. That's what we want. That's what I want. I would imagine the Trump voters want that too. But what have they provided you in any sort of proof? I mean, tangible proof, other than, well, it's the most fraud that everyone's ever seen. No one sees anything like that. Well, those are just words. I mean, what specifically are you talking about? And you Trump supporters, what specifically will you accept as proof that guys like Donald Trump and Lindell and the Kraken lady and Giuliani, that they're hacks? They have zero credibility, and they have been lying to you this entire time.
You take that back, Sylvia.
What is it?
Okay, one more confusing statement from this article. Again, I didn't write it. Georgetown Institute of Politics in Public Service. Now, this survey back from June of 2021, but here is what they claim in a confusing fashion. When asked about the election, a majority of both daily Fox viewers, 56%, and non-viewers, 69%, say refusing to accept the election results is an extremely or very important problem. But I'm not clear from the survey, like 56% of Fox people are like, it's a problem that you don't understand that it was a rigged election.
Well, the election results are the election results. Joe Biden is the president. That's very specific. So even a majority of the Fox viewers recognize that denying that Biden won the election is problematic. That's how I'm reading that.
There is no religion, no heaven, Tom.
Well,
take it all back. Well, you're a heathen, though.
Thank you.
Come back with us. Your phone calls could be next. Infrastructure Week, maybe we'll get there as well. No promises. Kind of like Merrick Garland. Eventually, we'll get to him when he drops some indictments.
Right.
In the Trump family. More Devil's Advocates, 844-96-PARTY. The political party continues with your phone calls.
And the world will live as one. Then it came in and out. It came in 3 times.
What is that smell?
Those aren't pillows.
I had to beat off all this.
I want to get back to being in my community group.
I want to continue having a soccer season.
So I can throw parties again. So I can go to her parties.
It'd really be nice to dine in instead of getting delivery for a change.
So I can feel safe and protected for myself and my students.
We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race. And you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Yosemites, Yosemites.
Because freedom. The Devil's Advocate. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. Join us at 844-967-2789.
Let's get to the phones. Bill from Deerfield, you're next. Welcome, Bill. What do you got for us?
Hey, Bill.
Hey, well, I'm calling you from Deerfield, Flexus. It's a hell of a state, man. We figured we could just kind of join up with Florida. And, you know, we like to show off our guns, so we just called it Flexus.
Flexus.
Yes. Anyway, we all know that these guys are insane.
But is everyone insane, though, Bill? I mean, people believe in this stuff. It's hard for me to believe that everybody is insane.
Okay, what I am seeing, and I'm obviously it's only anecdotal. More and more Trump paraphernalia is coming down out here in Eastern Dane County.
Because you're going around pulling it down, Bill, late at night?
Or? They got some new designs out these days, huh? They're rebranding a little bit.
The last couple of night storms may have had something to do with it, but I don't mind running around in the lightning.
Bill, you devious man. Sorry to cut you short, Bill. You're always welcome here. 844-967-2789. But, Dom, we've been promising infrastructure talk. I say you get one bite at the apple. These bipartisan sort, they're trying really hard to make me wrong, Dom, but I'm not wrong yet. But here's what Patrick Leahy had to say over the course of the weekend. Leahy, a Democrat, cut 22 if you would.
Now the American people expect us to vote. We're here. Let's vote.
Let's vote. More from Leahy. Do the country's business. 23, please.
Let's go forth and do the country's business. If the people have amendments they want, bring them up. Vote them up or vote them down.
Well, but Republicans have lots and lots of amendments they'd like to jam into the bipartisan bill. Let's hear from the minority leader, Mitch McConnell. You know, these amendments, Dom, they deserve votes. Unlike Merrick Garland. Cut 24, please.
There are many outstanding amendments that are important that would improve this legislation and that deserve votes before the Senate is asked to vote on final passage.
Well, he seems somewhat restrained here.
I know the passion between Leahy and McConnell here, man. I'm surprised they can keep their hat on. I mean, easy, fellas. Don't want you having a heart attack.
Well, there'll be a contrast coming. McConnell says, you know, we have a differing vision. Cut 25.
Republicans and Democrats have radically different visions these days, but both those visions include physical infrastructure that works for all of our citizens.
But the Democrats they go a little too far, according to McConnell. Cut 26, if you would.
We can't wait to get Democrats on record over many more trillions of dollars in reckless borrowing to fund socialist spending.
That's their plan. Their plan's a socialist plan, Dom.
Oh, yeah. Well, the trillions of dollars that they gave away in tax cuts and didn't do anything to bring that revenue back in and it forced to borrow anyway, that's not reckless whatsoever.
People don't watch enough Fox News to really understand that concept, Dom. So, you know, I keep feeding my audience whatever they want to hear. One more from McConnell. The stakes, they could not be higher.
The stakes in this debate could not be higher. And very soon, the country will see it aired out here right on the Senate floor. The Democratic leader will be putting the full radicalism of the far left right here on this floor.
The full radicalism of the far left right here on the floor. And it's going to be debated because you're no longer the majority leader, Mitch McConnell. A little socialism in action, at least according to you. And we're going to find out how popular this is amongst the American people. Hell, even Joe Manchin is on board. He's ready to claim the Senate. Well, they unbroke it, Dom. Cut 34.
I want to take a moment to thank my colleagues, all on both sides of the aisle, in this great deliberate body, for showing the United States and the entire world that the United States Senate is not broken.
Well,
a broken clock is right twice a day, man. It could very well still be broken. Tell me about that when you try to pass the $3.5 trillion reconciliation budget bill.
Well, and we've got a few Republicans to hear from still. John Cornyn, the Republican from Texas, Senator, what about the COVID funds? Cut 32.
Our amendment simply gives states and local governments the flexibility to use unspent COVID relief funding on infrastructure projects.
Instead of actually backstopping the schools or medical stuff that the money is earmarked for. Spend it on the roads, but not high-speed rail. Certainly not that.
Well, no, not that socialist railroad.
One more from Cornyn. Cut 33, please.
I've been working with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to identify new pay-fors that could be adopted as amendments. And we've come up with some good ideas that I hope can receive votes now, even post-cloture.
Votes post-cloture? Well, cloture is the closing of debate, so I don't think so. A couple more here from Chuck Schumer. He's the majority leader. Cut 39, infrastructure. Who knew it was going to be this hard?
I said yesterday, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. Yesterday, it appeared that some Republicans would like the Senate to do this the hard way.
It's going to get all medieval on your asses, Dom. More from Schumer and a message for his GOP colleagues. Cut 40.
Democrats are ready and willing to vote on additional amendments to the bill before moving to final passage. Once again, that will require the cooperation of our Republican colleagues. I hope they will cooperate so we can move more quickly.
But they won't.
No, they won't.
They never do, because they don't really want to pass this deal. Just a small minority of Republicans are actually on board for this bipartisan deal.
But enough to make it pass.
Enough to continue debate at this point, Dom, but you haven't passed anything. One more from Schumer. Here we go again. Cut 41.
This afternoon, we pick up where we left off last night. The Senate has voted to advance the bipartisan infrastructure bill and bring debate on the substitute amendment to an end.
So a lot of gobbledygook to say, let's close debate. Let's be done with this. Let's move America forward. My understanding, Dom, there could be a vote as soon as tomorrow.
Ooh.
Do you think it will be a success? Do you think these Republicans will backpedal? I mean, Trump's putting a lot of pressure out there, and who cares about Trump, right? But I see there's been already at least one Republican senatorial defection under Trump's pressure. So do you still have sufficient votes to pass this?
I think so. Deal? I mean, look, at the end of the day, we need infrastructure investment, period. It's been put off by administrations for years, Republican and Democratic administrations. Now's the time to get it done. I think people recognize that. And even if a couple fall sway to Trump's pressure, I don't think the majority of them will. I want to see Mitt Romney voting against this.
You get one bite at the apple. I keep saying it. That's what I believe. You get one infrastructure bill, no more devils.
Now the American people expect us to vote. We're here. Let's vote.
Our voters can't repel
legislation of this.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Double Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
News, I'm Tim McGuire. The Senate is expected to vote on and likely pass the $1 trillion infrastructure bill tomorrow.
The bill will represent a substantial down payment towards the level of infrastructure investment our country needs.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says Democrats are also working on the outline of a $3.5 trillion budget bill that, over a 10-year stretch, would provide resources for healthcare, education, family services, and environmental programs. The measure also includes tax breaks for families and much of the cost covered by tax increases on the rich and corporations. Republican leader Mitch McConnell says he sees the Democrats' plan as costing closer to $5 trillion.
Trillions more borrowing and trillions more spending when inflation is already sticking American families with higher costs.
Pentagon plans to make COVID-19 mandatory next month. AP Sagar Magani has details.
You can consider this memo today as what we would call in the military a warning order.
Spokesman John Kirby says Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin's telling unvaccinated troops to get ready. The plan is to make the vaccine mandatory by September 15th, and maybe sooner if the shots get final FDA approval or infection rates keep rising. Kirby notes troops must already get up to 17 vaccinations.
It just becomes part of that regimen.
It says Austin hopes those who've been unwilling so far will get the COVID vaccine when it's mandatory. Officials say the military vaccination pace has been growing, but the rates vary widely among the services, from more than 74% of the Navy at least partially vaccinated to about half the Army. Sagar Magani, Washington.
A mixed day on Wall Street. The Dow dropping 106 points, and Nasdaq up slightly, 23 points, and a minor gain as well for the S&P 500, 4 points. This is AP News.
Hey y'all, this is your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for Meemaw and Peepaw and all the other maws and paws visiting the close to 4 million grandbabies born last year who've only seen you on a laptop. For all the bubbies, nanas, and papas ready to finally get your arms around those little loves, Motel 6 offers clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. We'll even call you Giga if you want. I'm Tom Bobo Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Yeah, it's piracy. So many product prices are jacked up so high because of shortages. Piracy, I tell you, matey.
So keep your sights on Crazy Lenny's e-bikes. They have the low price reputation.
Low prices. We saw this coming 10 months ago. We started buying more bikes, 100 bike containers, so we could keep our low price image.
Shiver me timber. Give us an example.
E-bikes with 40-mile range, with disc brakes, with torque controller. Retail $1,900. Nope, not at my store. Just $844.
$1,900 bike for $844. That is crazy.
Aye, matey. And we have 150 electric bikes on display on our show.
$844 for quality e-bikes at Crazy Lenny's e-bike.
My store. I mean, my ship.
Raise the plank and hoist the sails. Set our course for Crazy Lenny's bosun. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes are down the road.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of the Jade Monkey. Come to the Monkey and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Jade Monkey and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
This is Crudy, and I recommend calling Dave and the team at Community PC to solve all your computing needs. What do I call Community PC? Because I don't want to learn new things about tech, because I don't want to call the manufacturer's customer service line and waste half the day of my life, because I don't want to ask my kid for help and have him respond, okay, boomer. Just call Community PC at 608-268-7178 for their patient service. Just let Community PC fix it. 608-268-7178. Call today.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. The Republican chairwoman of the State Assembly Elections Committee, Representative Janelle Brandtjen, announced on Friday she is issuing subpoenas to seize ballots and voting machines from Brown and Milwaukee counties. However, a memo from the Wisconsin Legislative Council outlines subpoenas can only be issued by Assembly Speaker Robin Vos or the Assembly Chief Clerk. The subpoenas appear to be copies from a similar letter issued last month by a lawmaker in Pennsylvania and refer to election terms not used in Wisconsin. Brandtjen's announcement came as a protest was held at the state capitol on Friday that called for a forensic audit of the election and the ousting of Speaker Vos. Forecast of thunderstorms throughout the day today with winds up to 10 miles an hour and the potential for gusting winds. High today of 80 degrees. Clouds expected this evening with a stray storm possible and an overnight low of 67 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 4 o'clock happy hour. And we do the news, sports, and weather round here. A little bit of a weather update. Got to tell the 103.5 listeners and the 1580 listeners, be careful out there on the roads. An unsettled weather pattern has produced at least one more tornado in southern Wisconsin. Authorities confirmed a tornado over Darien and Clinton in Rock and Walworth counties around 3:15 p.m. Monday, according to the National Weather Service. As the storm moved east, a tornado warning was issued about 3:30 p.m. for northwestern Walworth County, including Elkhorn, for a radar-indicated tornado. Again, this is a tornado. It's active. At least it was 30 minutes ago. Dominic, a little bit more here. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are expected to continue through Monday afternoon in southeast Wisconsin. And on Tuesday, much of southern and central Wisconsin faces an enhanced risk of severe storms, including what could be straight line winds Tuesday evening in the Milwaukee area of 60 to 70 miles per hour.
Damn.
It's going to be in the 90s tomorrow. Hot and humid means unsettled weather. So be careful out there on the roads, especially if you're in Walworth or Rock counties currently. 844-967-2789. We'll take your phone calls in the happier hour. Let's get to him, Dom. Ross from Middleton, you're the first one in. What do you got for us?
Hey, Ross.
Hey, guys. Quick traffic report. The belt line heading east by Verona Road is really bad. So if anybody's getting in their car and getting ready to head towards Cambridge, find a different route. So what I was going to talk about was, you guys were talking about this budget reconciliation, or excuse me, the infrastructure plan. I think the infrastructure, assuming it goes through, I think ultimately this makes Biden look good because he makes it look like he's the guy that can kind of bring the country together, which I know is kind of is sort of an illusion, but I think that works in 2024.
Well, it's not an illusion, Ross, if he gets the deal done. I mean, it would be delivering. Yeah, right. It would be reality.
Right. No, that's right. Right. Exactly. And we need, a lot of us are sort of wishing for it or hoping for it because we're sort of getting a little bit scared that this country's starting to get ripped apart. The budget reconciliation thing, I at first I thought, well, they should hold off, let the bipartisan plan go through. But then I thought, no, just get this bipartisan thing done and then head right into that budget reconciliation. The only really argument that the Republicans have against it is that they're concerned is that it's going to cause inflation. And they're already talking about inflation, but inflation isn't really that bad yet. And there's a lot of people who are sort of saying that the inflation, even with this budget reconciliation, which would pour a ton of money into the economy, might not be that bad. And so I kind of think that the one will help Biden. The budget reconciliation will hopefully help the rest of the Democrats, assuming there isn't some explosion in inflation. That's my thoughts.
Well, Ross, that's a guano ton of thoughts.
Appreciate the call, man. But I guess ultimately too, though, I mean, if Republicans vote for this, or enough Republicans vote for this, listen, it's okay to have a victory for this country. We need infrastructure investment. I don't think there's really any political party out there can tell you that we do not need that. And the priorities and what you do first and how much you spend and how you pay for it. Some of those things are certainly up for debate, and the Republicans and the Dems, and they have every right, and they should go down that road. But at the end of the day, if enough Republicans come along and the Democrats, and they can push this thing through, we still have to see what Pelosi's going to do, right? This is a changed bill from what the House has passed, and I'm not clear she has her her 2-track system. If this thing passes the Senate, what's her take on the $3.5 trillion budget bill? If it's a dual track, where's that track going?
Well, currently, I think it's headed towards passage. That's the must-pass bill, the budget bill. But one of the troubling parts, at least as far as I was concerned, Dom, they don't have a debt ceiling lift in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. So, Republicans are going to go villainize Democrats, assuming they can pass this bill, chock full of, liberal wishes and
that Republicans
hears.
That enough Republicans voted for, sure.
Well, I'm talking
but
about
it kind of takes away that criticism, doesn't it?
Well, you're confusing me because I'm talking about the larger reconciliation bill.
Okay.
The $3.5 trillion. You're not going to get any Republican votes.
Right.
They're going to villainize the Democrats for their socialist thinking, according to Mitch McConnell, of course. And we don't have a raise in the debt ceiling baked into the cake. So we're going to have one more battle with the Republicans, at least. And this battle can be disastrous for the country because they got enough votes to shut it down. And that always makes me fearful of Republicans. They're not afraid to shut down the government just to make an electoral point, because next year are the midterms, Tom. Who cares if the government doesn't work for a year or two? Well, that's Joe Biden's fault.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try that, but I don't think it's going to last, man. I hear what you're saying, and I know that they did this under Trump, but generally, it's going to be too much pressure on them not to. And the debt ceiling versus what they already passed, I mean, this whole thing is ridiculous. And I'm of the opinion that I think that the Democrats are making the calculation that although, and I believe even right now, McConnell's doubling down on his threats about this, that they will eventually come around.
And why would they? If they can villainize the Democrats for blowing up the budget and blowing up the debt ceiling, well, why should we let them off the hook? They just passed a $3.5 trillion budget.
Yeah, and it passed.
They just blew it up.
And it passed.
Well,
and they've decided that's what we're going to spend the money on. Once you allocate the money, man, it's passed. So the debt ceiling thing is ancillary to the actual passage of those bills. And I hear it, man. And maybe they'll play a little game for a while, but I think the Republicans ultimately will be the ones who really are going to, if they do that, they're going to be hurting in the long run.
And
sure.
Republicans always worry about the optics of their bad governance.
Not at all.
Well, keep that in mind. 844-967-27.
Doesn't mean it's still going to come back and bite him in the ass, dude.
That's a lot of strategery between here and there. I mean, first and foremost, you're predicting that we're going to get a bipartisan win for both parties, one for Joe Biden, one for, the Republicans. Then we're going to have a $3.5 trillion reconciliation plan that this country also needs. So we got a pure Democratic win. And then you think the Republicans are going to be convinced to do the right thing and raise the debt ceiling. I have less confidence and Republicans doing the right thing to them. What would convince them? The pressure of the American people? Come on.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure, just like the
convinced them
pressure of the
last
American
time?
people.
What convinced them last time when Trump did it?
Trump was on the ballot. They still had an election. They were shutting it down in an election year. I mean, they're complete morons sometimes, Tom. I don't know why you think they would do something like that. Ted Cruz, I believe, led the last full frontal charge on not paying the U.S.'s debts after we've already run up the debt. Because, of course, this is just paying last year's debts.
Right.
And you can allocate more money, but when you hit the debt limit must be lifted. And I mean, it's an asinine game we play every year, every 2 years in this biannual budget. But I mean, it's stupid, but it's still one of the tools that Republicans can beat the snot out of Democrats with. I keep wanting to get into Tom from White Bear Lake. Tom from Minnesota, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
Hi. I just want a solidarity shout out. 5-6 years ago, us Minnesotans were over there in the Pinocchio Hills getting rid of GTAC and Walker for you folks to protect Lake Superior and the Bad River tribe. Well, I'm inviting Wisconsinites to come over to the governor's mansion to have every Monday afternoon vigil against the Line 3 pipeline.
Will there be singing, Tom? Because here in the Wisconsin state capitol, there was protest songs.
Hey, yeah, we got the real pipes. They'll be singing.
So, Tom, you're going to go to Tim Walz, and Walz a Democrat, right? The Democratic governor of Minnesota's mansion. And you guys are protesting him because despite the fact that Walz claimed he was against Line 3, apparently he's been persuaded elsewise on this topic. Seemingly he's now in support of Line 3, is my understanding, Tom.
Yeah, well, he could be against Line 3, and he could, or he could have it named after him. It could be Tim's Toxic Tunnel or Joe's Hose. But they can stop it, and we're going to remind them of that every Monday from 4:30 to 6.
And where is the governor's
Summit Avenue in St. Paul?
Well, thank you for clarification. Would hate to show up at the wrong guy's house. Tom, we'll try to make arrangements. We'd like to travel every so often. Maybe we can show up at Tim Walz's house. You know, we kind of used up our relationship with the former governor here in the state of Wisconsin. Scott Walker didn't care for us much towards the end.
As opposed to how much you loved us at the beginning. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Tom.
967-2789. Also, a tragic climate change report came out this weekend. 195 countries involved. I know Ron Johnson claims that climate change is BS, but climate change is affecting us in real time. And, you know, much like the insurrectionist Republicans, this climate change stuff is scarier than perhaps first anticipated. Portland, Oregon's in the hundreds again today. I mean, the West Coast is burning. Biggest fire in the history of California. Right now, what's going on until next year when they'll have a biggest fire in the history of California, right? Because the droughts keep happening. The wind currents are changing and weather patterns, they don't move like they used to. But Ron, you keep denying. I'm sure that'll work out perfectly for you electorally. You know, when the petrochemical companies are looking for a grandiose recipient of their contributions, I'm sure you'll be the first guy they look up, Ron. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. You can be a part of this political party. Join at 844-967-2789.
Nobody can even begin to imagine what a completely scorched earth Senate would look like.
I think that I am familiar with the fact that you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass.
I was busy doing work. I serve in the Senate.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I'm the owner of Devil Radio. I'm asking for your support now. Wisconsin has 81 conservative radio stations blanketing the entire state with conspiracies of stolen elections, anti-vaxxer messaging, and it's all fueled by dark money. The left's best and only on-air voices in our state cannot be funded entirely by pizza parlors. The battle for the soul of Wisconsin is ongoing. Go to devilradio927.com and click the Support Devil Radio tab. Give now if you can. Thank you.
Chad's Design Build is proud to sponsor the Summer of Love on Devil Radio. We are committed to our community to demand better for each and every person. Doing the right thing isn't necessarily easy or inexpensive, but when we take the time to listen and learn, we can build a better community. Thoughtful remodeling is a lot like building an effective, progressive coalition. It takes patience, intelligence, and love. Experience helps too. Thank you, Joe Biden, and thank you, Devil Radio. On behalf of Chad's Design Build, here's to the Summer of Love.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Hey, what's going on? Oh, didn't you hear? Knuckleheads is moving locations, but not to worry. Knuckleheads will still be on State Street and your best shop for CBD and wellness. And it's going to be at 520 State Street on ground level, which is 100% handicap accessible. Stop by the new digs from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. any day of the week and get 15% off when you mention Devil Radio. I'm Lando Commando, and I'll see you there at our new location, 520 State Street.
Extra, extra.
This is Rocker. I'm sitting on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash, and I'm enjoying a floral-forward Manhattan called As Long As There's Whiskey. It features Rocker Rye whiskey with a hint of blueberry, a touch of smoky Amaro, and it's finished off with St. Germain. It's a Rocker Rye Manhattan at Sal's Tomato Pies on Livingston. Ask for it by name, As Long As There's Whiskey. You can also enjoy Rocker Spirits at the Wisco and Tiny's Tap on Willie Street. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Your participation always encouraged at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we got a, pardon me, a fine guest anticipated tomorrow at 4:30. Dr. Jillian Bettino. She is running for the U.S. Senate here in the great state of Wisconsin, hoping to oppose Ron Johnson. So we're going to do a little get to know you with Dr. Bettino on this big show about 4:30 tomorrow. And some other big news for Alex Lasry, he a senatorial candidate. He and his wife, Lauren, welcomed baby Eleanor Jordan Lasry on August 6th. Little baby girl got a lot of love on the social medias, apparently, putting the campaign on hold for a few days. I did invite candidate Lasry to Hawks, the big party down at Hawks on August 24th. Maybe he'll be able to be pulled away from his baby's side by that big event, Dom. But anyways, big news for him as well. And it may come as a shocker, Dom, but we got more people jumping into the race for the U.S. Senate.
Come on, Curdy. I don't want to hear it. You're not doing it, right?
It's not me.
Okay, good.
It's not me. I'm actually looking for the article. I saw it at the Journal Sentinel earlier. One of Evers' appointments is joining. Did you see that news, Tom?
I did not. And why do we have any more? I don't want any more. But everyone's got it right. I get it. You feel like you are the one to represent, if nobody else but you. You have absolutely every right to do so. I encourage people to do so, but come on.
Here it is. My bad. Daryl Williams. I found this at the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. I thought it was at the Journal. That's why I couldn't find it. Williams joins the race for the seat held by U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. Now, his resume currently, Dom, he is the head of Wisconsin's Emergency Management Office. He announced Friday he will join the crowded Democratic primary field in Wisconsin's 2022 U.S. Senate race. Daryl Williams, administrator of the Division of Emergency Management in the State Department of Military Affairs, joined several Democrats already vying for the seat held by Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. Johnson hasn't said yet if he'll seek re-election. I suspect he will. Williams was appointed to his current post in 2019 by Governor Tony Evers and confirmed in 2020 by the GOP-controlled state Senate. Prior to that, he worked in education for decades, including as assistant superintendent for the Beloit School District and as a principal in Milwaukee. He received his doctorate in urban education from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in 2007 and was recognized as National Principal of the Year by the National Alliance of Black School Educators in 2013. His campaign announcement video was released Friday. You are looking at someone who truly values education, not only in words, but in deeds. Williams served 29 years in the U.S. Army, including 2 combat tours, 1 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. Just as I have stood and fought on the front lines abroad, I will stand to fight for you and the democracy of this nation here at home, he said in the video. Others that we're aware of, because it's a changing scenario. U.S. Senate candidates include Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, Sarah Godlewski, Tom Nelson, Alex Lasry, Wausau physician Jillian Bettino. Again, she'll be on this show tomorrow. State Senate candidate Adam Murphy, and Milwaukee Alder Shantia Lewis. Stephen Olkara, founder of the Millennial Action Project, has formed an exploratory committee, but hasn't made any official campaign announcements, unlike the other 9. And Larson's already moved on from the race back to running for re-election as a state senator.
I'm sure this guy will do a very good job as a senator, and I'm sure it would be great, qualified, awesome stuff. But can I insert a new rule for any new people who are going to jump into this race? You have to have a gimmick, no matter who it is. I want it to be like if it's going to be this crazy, you got to make it like the prime minister race in Britain. I want Elmo. I want Lord Bucketface. I want Captain Binhead. I want all of those people running for, because if you're going to do it this way, at least make us have some fun. Please give me a gimmick or something like that, because otherwise it's just this person's better than Ron Johnson and another person better than Ron Johnson and another person better than Ron Johnson. And that's it. Elmo would be better than Ron Johnson, but either way, at least we'd be entertained.
You know, Fancy Brian, you're sort of working the pork chop sideburns. Are you anticipating a run for something? That's your political stunt, the pork chops.
I'm Mr. Sideburns and Fu Manchu. That's what I am.
Excellent.
Lord Chewbacca.
You wear it well.
449672789. You know, Dom, we are like a year and a day from the partisan primary. It's like a year from now, tomorrow, Tuesday, always being election day.
Wow.
So, you know, I hope you're ready for like a year of this. And quite frankly, I find this to be a quite impressive resume. I mean, I don't know about you, Don, but Daryl Williams has got a better resume than you and I put together.
Hey, speak for yourself, man. I've been doing radio for 10 years. That qualifies me to do absolutely everything.
You could be vice president. How did Mike Pence? Mike Pence was a righty-whitey talker once upon a time and described himself as sort of like Rush Limbaugh with less pizzazz. Similar to you.
I'm like Rush Limbaugh, but with a heartbeat.
You're like Mike Pence, but with less pizzazz.
Yeah.
Slightly better looking, but it's arguable.
No, it is. As far as the Senate race here in Wisconsin, I'm happy we have such a plethora of people to choose from, and it's going to be difficult to be able to put them all on stage and have them all compete with one another.
Can't do it.
Obviously, the more there are, but
can't be done effectively with 10 candidates.
At least everyone's pretty qualified.
So we got that going for us. I mean, Ron Johnson was a private businessman who basically had lots of money, married very well, had like $10 million to burn.
Yeah, I mean, having business acumen is certainly an important part of
life. I didn't say he was a good businessman. I said he married very well. Come back from the commercial break for more devil's advocates. I'd say in the marriage category, both you and I did fairly well. Especially me.
I don't feel like my time here has been particularly successful.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That could be. It might be. It is. Devil Radio 92.7.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I'm the owner of Devil Radio. I'm asking for your support now. Wisconsin has 81 conservative radio stations, blanketing the entire state with conspiracies of stolen elections, anti-vaxxer messaging, and it's all fueled by dark money. The left's best and only on-air voices in our state cannot be funded entirely by pizza parlors. The battle for the soul of Wisconsin is ongoing. Go to devilradio927.com and click the Support Devil Radio tab. Give now if you can. Thank you.
Dane by Local is hosting its fundraising event Eat Local, Give Local on August 19th. Dine at any participating restaurant and 10% of your bill will be donated to Dane by Local, which works to support local businesses and keep our local economy strong. Enjoy delicious food and help independently owned businesses in the community at the same time. For more information and to see a complete list of participating restaurants, go to danebylocal.com. That's Dane, B-U-Y local.com. Eat Local, Give Local on August 9th.
Code Red for Planet Earth. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. A science report from the United Nations finds Earth is getting so hot that temperatures in about a decade will exceed the level of warming that world leaders had tried to prevent. They've issued a code red. Co Barrett is with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Recent changes in the climate are widespread, rapid, and intensifying.
Senate Democrats have unveiled a budget resolution that maps $3.5 trillion aimed at strengthening social and environmental programs. Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell is opposed, saying the price tag is too high.
Trillions more borrowing and trillions more spending when inflation is already sticking American families.
Arkansas set a new record for the number of people hospitalized because of COVID-19, nearly 1,400 people. Stocks ended mixed today, the Dow and NASDAQ higher. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Hey, y'all, this is your girl, Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for Meemaw and Peepaw and all the other maws and paws visiting the close to 4 million grandbabies born last year who've only seen you on a laptop. For all the bubbies, nanas, and papas ready to finally get your arms around those little loves, Motel 6 offers clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. We'll even call you Giga if you want. I'm Tom Bobo Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. This summer, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos appointed former conservative Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman to oversee a probe into the 2020 presidential election in Wisconsin, which Joe Biden won. Gableman has repeatedly stated he is not looking to overturn last fall's election, but rather restore Wisconsinites' faith in the election process. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is reporting that at a rally last fall after the election, Gableman spoke to a crowd of former President Donald Trump supporters and said, quote, "Our elected leaders, your elected leaders, have allowed unelected bureaucrats at the Wisconsin Elections Commission to steal our vote," end quote. Speaker Vos has said the probe will remain confidential, but recently expanded the authority of Gableman's probe after former law enforcement officials on the probe quit without explanation. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Monday edition. Dominic, big Tuesday event happening on the South Beloit Border Dispensary tomorrow morning. Wisconsin Democratic lawmakers crossing the line to go down there and roll out a legislative piece. My understanding, legalized marijuana will be the topic. I got to tell you, buddy, I'm looking at making a early morning road trip, for the sake of the journalism.
Yes.
I think I got to go down to the sunny side.
Well, if you go, then you pick up some wares. Presumably that's a business expense. Because
come on, do it, do it,
do it.
I'm strongly considering. I'll let you know on tomorrow's big show if I've been down to the border or not. Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Run to the border, baby.
So big press conference happening tomorrow morning out of state.
In Illinois.
Last time Democrats left the state and went to Illinois, I think Scott Fitzgerald tried to have him arrested.
Right.
I see a judge in Texas has put off the arrest. They're still seeking to arrest Democrats from Texas. They're still out of the state. They're still fleeing prosecution and fleeing quorum, so they can't pass the bad voter laws down there. You see
but
that?
then a bunch of Republicans down in the Texas legislature contract COVID, so they might not have a quorum anyway because there's too many sick Republicans.
Oh, I had not heard that.
I have to take it up. That's my understanding.
That'd be a shame. Heard Luke, the newsman, talking about Gableman, Michael Gableman. I call him the most corrupt Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin history. And Robin Voss calls him the lead investigator of the election frauded, whatever they're going to call this thing. Story, Patrick Marley at the Journal Sentinel. Want to get it out there for your consideration. The lawyer overseeing a Republican review of the presidential election is portraying himself as a neutral arbiter who hasn't reached any conclusions, but last year he told a group of Donald Trump supporters that the election had been stolen.
That seems like a conclusion to me.
I think you've probably heard this quote by now, but I'm going to repeat it. Our elected leaders, your elected leaders, have allowed unelected bureaucrats at the Wisconsin Elections Commission to steal our vote. Again, this is Gableman. He told the crowd at Serb Hall in Milwaukee in November. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss of Rochester hired Gableman at taxpayer expense. That's always the line I'd love to read. At your and I expense, Tom, you and I and all the taxpayers here, this summer to review the election that Trump narrowly lost, even though recounts and a slew of court rulings showed Joe Biden had won. The pairing is not an obvious one. Gableman in November blamed Republican leaders like Voss for setting the stage for what he considers a poorly run election, arguing they should have cracked down on the agency that oversees Wisconsin's voting system. Again, a quote, the people who bear the real responsibility for all of this is the legislative leadership. They created the Wisconsin Elections Commission. That is true. Used to be the Government Accountability Board. They destroyed that because that board tried to hold Scott Walker accountable.
Can't have that.
And Gableman, if I recall, but reading on, they created the Wisconsin Elections Commission. They pay for it. They write the checks. Well, the people pay for it, but the legislature writes the checks to support all these people at the commission. Gableman made the comment on a podcast hosted by Kevin Nicholson. This is all very incestuous, Tom. The former Marine who lost the 2018 Republican primary for U.S. Senate and is planning a bid for Senate or governor next year. Gableman sits on the board of No Better Friends Corp, the political group that Nicholson heads.
Crudy, also on the podcast, Gableman said he thought Republican lawmakers were unwilling to take on the Elections Commission because they feared media criticism, according to a Milwaukee Journal Sentinel review of comments Gableman made shortly after the election. Recently, Gableman has tried to downplay his past comments. In a recent interview broadcast on WISN TV, Gableman falsely claimed he hadn't said the election was stolen. Gableman did not respond to questions from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. A spokeswoman for Voss also did not answer questions. During the interview, Gableman was asked whether he had prejudged his review of the election by saying at the November rally, "I don't think anyone here can think of anything more systematically unjust than a stolen election," unquote. He responded, "I didn't say it was a stolen election. I stand by every word you just said. I cannot, and I defy you to think of anything more unjust than a corrupt or unlawful election in a democracy. Whether that occurred here is very much a question to be examined." Asked if that meant he was trying, that he was saying that he hadn't told the crowd the election was stolen, Gableman said, "I try to be very careful with my words." Well, let's be very careful with his words and go back and read the exact quote that Patrick Marley documented here in this fine article. And here's what Gableman said at Serb Hall in Milwaukee in November. "Our elected leaders, your elected leaders, have allowed unelected bureaucrats at the Wisconsin Elections Commission to steal our vote." Sounds like he said steal our vote. Just, if if that matters. I mean, so you got the guy right now, the most corrupted former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice leading this investigation, already prejudging it, saying this, laying the groundwork, much like Trump did. Oh, it's stolen election. Now he's going to come up and say, well, I didn't say that. I'm very careful with my words. And yeah, I would say, and I do agree with you on one thing here, Gableman, that a corrupt election, an unlawful election is one of the most unjust things in the democracy. But I would remind you, that's what your guy's trying to do. That's what Trump is trying to do. And that's what you are doing, enabling that action. You are trying to make this an unlawful election. You are trying to make this a corrupt election. We did the recounts. We looked at the machines. Come on, man. This has already been it. You're out there pushing the big lie.
See what Ann Jacobs said, recent guest on this show, her quote. I think that's a profoundly unfortunate, false, and inflammatory comment, said Jacobs, the Democrat who serves as chairwoman of the commission. The Elections Commission has been absolutely diligent in fulfilling our statutory duties with regards to election. Assembly Democratic leader Gordon Hentz, Dem from Oshkosh, said Gableman wasn't credible because he had cheered on the pro-Trump crowd in November. He showed up at the circus. He showed up at the clown show. I mean, he's part of the circus. He's doing damage by his participation in this. There is no credibility. Dominic, the status of Gableman's investigation is unclear. Voss hired law enforcement officers to assist Gableman, but they quit. Voss recently said he has given Gableman more authority and will allow him to hire more help. Well, you know how tough it is to hire help these days, Tom. The developments come as State Rep Janelle Branchin, the Menominee Falls Republican who leads the Assembly Committee, is seeking to seize ballots and voting equipment at Brown and Milwaukee counties. She issued subpoenas for that material on Friday, but they appear to be invalid because they were not signed by Voss or Assembly Chief Clerk Ted Blazel. But Dominic, there's more about Gableman's criticism.
Yeah, there's a little bit of history here, Curdy. Gableman is now working closely with Voss, but 9 months ago, he had harsh words for the legislative leaders like Voss. In his November podcast appearance, Gableman criticized the Elections Commission for guidance it gave clerks what he considers to be inaccurate. That's when he said, quote, the ones who bear the real responsibility for all of this is the legislative leadership. Republicans aren't doing more about how the commission operates because they can't handle public criticism, he said. I think legislators, especially Republican legislators, are afraid that if they do take steps to see that the election laws are followed, that they will be criticized by, among others, most of the editors and most of the reporters at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and other media outlets for so-called voter suppression, when in fact they are just trying to enforce the law, Gableman said. The commission consists of 6 members, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. Gableman claimed that when the commissioners deadlock on an issue, the staff recommendation prevails. That is not true. The staff can't take action without the directive of a majority of the commission. Again, now this goes back to the point of credibility. I think Hintz said it, and I said it earlier in the show about these hacks. I mean, on what basis do you believe the words coming out of their mouths? Let's see. He also blasted the commission for its decision not to quickly purge thousands of voters from the rolls in 2019 after notifying them that it believed it might have moved. After notifying them that it believed they may have moved, that the voters had moved. He argued the commission was in clear violation of these statutes, even though an appeals court decision was in place at the time, saying the commission had acted appropriately. 5 months after Gableman claimed the commission was wrong, the state Supreme Court ruled 5-2 in its favor. Again, credibility. Why do you believe anything this guy says? I simply don't. Also, during the podcast interview, Gableman said he had trouble believing 85% of voters in some wards in Milwaukee had voted for Biden, even though lopsided numbers for Democrats are common in the state's largest city. A quote from Gableman. I simply don't believe those numbers are legitimate based on what I've seen and conversations I've had. I just think that President Trump has a lot more support than that, Gableman said. Results from past elections show Biden numbers in Milwaukee were typical. For instance, in 2016, when Trump won the state, Democrat Hillary Clinton received 85% or more of the votes in many Milwaukee wards. Similarly, Trump that year racked up close to 85% of the vote in heavily Republican rural areas, such as Alto, Leola, McKinley, and Herman. So, I mean, He's prejudged it. He's already saying that it's been stolen. He's ripping on the commission for what he thinks are grievous actions that the conservative Wisconsin Supreme Court leader ruled in its favor on. And he said, well, you know, that 85% of some of those people in Milwaukee voting for Biden, I can't imagine based on my conversations what I think. Well, see, that's a problem. You have no basis of credibility. I mean, the best, most credible thing you ever did was get elected to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, where you went on to disparage that fine institution. So why is this guy here? Why did Voss put this guy in? Why do Republicans think guys like Gableman, guys like Trump, guys like Mike Lindell are the end-all be-all move they say is God's rule? Why do they think that? These people have zero credibility.
Well, Gableman has the title of former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice, and whether or not he's deluded in his beliefs or credible doesn't matter, because he's got the title. And this is not to seek the truth, because we know the truth. Voss knows the truth. This was not a rigged election. The absentee ballots came in Milwaukee County overwhelmingly for Joe Biden, just like Voss's own staffer, the statistician for Republicans, I think his name is Joe Henrich, predicted they would. Just as Scott Walker, the former governor of the state of Wisconsin, assured us that he saw it coming. So when you can't convince guys like Scott Walker or Joe Henrich that this was a curved election, a rigged election, because they've seen the math predictably come down this way in the past, well, it's very hard for me to believe that Robin Voss still believes. So this is not about setting forth an investigation with credibility. This is about setting forth an investigation that gives you the desired result. The ends justify the means. You know that by now, Salvia. 844-967-2789. Want to sneak Jeannie in from Eau Claire. Hey, Jeannie, how are you?
Hey, Jean.
Hi, guys, and happy birthday, Brian. I have to say that, we give those guys too much leeway. They're committing fraud, and they're abusing their power. And why in the world would we think anybody that would support Trump in all of the things that he has done to our country, and they want to still get him into office? Let's think about their issues. Let's think about how incompetent and dangerous they are in our state, and vote them the heck out of there, because they're a danger. They're dangerous. And then that judge, where is the lawyer responsibility group? Now, these guys know what the heck's going on. They know what that judge is doing. Why in the heck don't our Wisconsin bar get their butts on this thing? Because this is outrageous. And guess what, State Bar of Wisconsin? We're not going to trust you anymore unless you start doing something to protect the people, because we're not going to trust any of you. So how do you like that?
Well, here's the problem, GD. The State Bar Association takes those lawyer complaints to the highest court, to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They would have jurisdiction. And Gableman's a former justice on that court. Gableman wasn't held accountable for his despicable campaigning when he won election to the court. I don't know they'd hold him accountable now, but I appreciate your thought, Jeannie. Come back, more Devil's Advocates.
This election was rigged. This election is a total fraud.
I have never been more excited about anything that I have gotten the chance to work on.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I'm the owner of Devil Radio. I'm asking for your support now. Wisconsin has 81 conservative radio stations, blanketing the entire state with conspiracies of stolen elections, anti-vaxxer messaging, and it's all fueled by dark money. The left's best and only on-air voices in our state cannot be funded entirely by pizza parlors. The battle for the soul of Wisconsin is ongoing. Go to devilradio927.com and click the Support Devil Radio tab. Give now if you can. Thank you.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join MoveOn's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Make some room on your home screen for the greatest radio app ever. Check out the Devil Radio app in the Apple and Google Play stores today and stream the greatest radio station ever wherever you go. The Devil Radio app, streaming 24/7 right from your smartphone.
Are you interested in channeling your creative passions into a podcast? Maybe you've always wanted to start one, but you didn't know how. Chris here from the On the Bus podcast. Devil Radio is the perfect podcast platform for you motherfuckers out there in radio land.
Dude, you can't say that shit on the air.
What, I can't say
No.
I can say on the podcast. I can't say here.
Yeah, but FCC on the air, man.
To learn more about how the Devil Radio team can help you make your podcast a reality, give them a call at 608-819-8255 or check out devilradio927.com.
Greetings, everyone. This is Nate Tim inviting you to my show, Lay of the Land, about life and politics in rural Wisconsin. Join me every Thursday at 7 p.m. on Devil Radio. This week, my special guest is Jerry Apps. See you then.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on WTTN 1580 AM, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. Toll free talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Jeannie, I looked it up. I want to make sure I explained accurately who would receive an ethics complaint if someone filed one against Gableman for his representation in this taxpayer-funded predetermined fiasco. The Office of Lawyer Regulation, the OLR, is an agency of the Wisconsin Supreme Court that receives grievances relating to lawyer misconduct, conducts investigations, and prosecutes violation of lawyer ethics rules. Persons wishing to file a grievance, click here. I'll share the site. 844-967-2789. I think I got that right. Anyways, Jeannie, I just want to be accurate. Wisco Paul, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Devils. Thanks, Jeannie. You always have a lot to say. I'm suffering from what you call Trump fatigue, and I just don't understand how people can still be backing the man. But I went up to visit my brother again, and you guys know where that is, Northern Marquette, Adams County, and the signs are still up. So I don't know what's with the people up there. And my brother says, "Hey, I just quit arguing with them." He says, "What are you going to do?" So the sooner he gets indicted, I don't even know if that'll change it, but the sooner they bring the hammer down on this man, the better, because I quite frankly am totally sick of it. And as far as Gableman and Voss, this is another thing. They're picking out two counties again, Brown and Milwaukee. I mean, everything else was okay, I guess, and like I told you, Crudy, the voting system we have in the state was set up by Winker and the Republicans, and it was supposed to be foolproof.
Don't forget Robin Voss. Don't forget Scott Fitzgerald. Yeah. They were all part of setting the elections statutes into place because they didn't like the former statutes. So they changed all the statutes to better reflect their personal desire to, suppress votes and things of that nature, Paul.
Yeah, Voss is a real dandy. I don't know. As far as the assembly goes, you can elect an assembly person, but he doesn't have any original thoughts, no matter how he runs, because Voss totally controls all the assembly members in this state. He controls them.
Well, he controls the money too, Paul. It's the Republican Assembly Campaign Committee gets all the funding. The Republican Party gets all the funding. So Voss and the Republican Party have effectively all the spigots of money. And if Voss doesn't like the way you're acting, well, he can pour some of that money behind your primary opponent.
Yeah, it's the whole thing's a sad situation. Well, at least we have the Devils helping us out. Thank God for you guys. At least you can keep Dane County, Columbia County, the counties around you halfway sane, and we got a voice where we can call and say, hey, this is stupid. So anyway, thanks, Devils, and you have a great day.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it, man. 844-967-2789. I want to throw this out there as well, Crudy, from WPR. Did a little write-up on the Sheriff Clark and Vicky McKenna action at the Capitol last weekend.
Thousands in attendance.
That's what they wrote. Let's see. What did he say? Clark, a strong supporter of the former president, organized the event. Speaking at the rally, he said Wisconsin's elections process resembles that in a banana republic. We, the people, must never surrender our right to scrutinize election results. And I'm fine with that. You have every right to scrutinize the results. Perhaps use your own money to pay for it. I mean, we've done recounts. We've done audits. We've gone through the processes. But you guys lost. You just lost, and you don't accept it. How about I'll continue? Clark was also sharply critical of state GOP leaders during his speech. Some dissension in the ranks, some fighting in the locker room. Last month, Trump called out Wisconsin Republican leaders, accusing them of working hard to cover up election corruption. After the comments, Voss said Trump was misinformed, but has since put more resources in the investigation, as we've discussed. Here's what Clark said. It is time for this GOP-controlled legislature to stand up, to exercise their duty under the Constitution and not let some other branch trample all over it. Clark told the rally crowd, which he also led in a chant of, Voss has got to go. Clark argued Voss and other state leaders are ignoring the will of the people. This is about what you want, not these public rulers. I don't care what they think, he said. They were sent here to carry out your will, not theirs. Clark also took several shots at the Wisconsin Elections Commission, which he argued has become partisan in favor of Democrats. But of course, as WPR points out, the commission is comprised of 3 Republicans and 3 Democratic appointees. So again, I mean, the words that come out of them, you have to judge them by what they say, and what they say is inaccurate or wrong or a lie. Doesn't that then impugn their character, call into question their credibility? Yes, it does. It must. But here's what gets me: some of the locals that showed up. Let's see here. According to several rally attendees, the existing investigations don't go far enough. Diane Merrill and Dorothy Schmood drove several hours from Green Bay for the event. Enough is enough. We want the truth, Schmood said. And if we don't get down to the truth now, my children and grandchildren and generations to come are going to pay the price for it. Well, here's the truth for you, hon. Trump lost. Merrill says she always had the sense that things have been hidden related to the 2020 election. Ooh, more census. Sounds like Gableman. He's had conversations. He can't believe that Biden would win 85% in some precincts in Milwaukee. She says, and she wants an audit that is checking for everything, checking for all possibilities of cheating, checking the ballots are on the right paper, that the signatures match, and that the machines that counted it aren't compromised. As people of the United States, we the people have the right to know what's going on in our country. Random audits of voting machines are already required under state law, and those audits have already taken place with no problems detected, according to the State Elections Commission. And then finally, Terry Brand, another attendee, says he has concerns with the late night votes reported from Milwaukee's county central count. Quote, transparency doesn't happen at 2 o'clock in the morning in the dark when everybody is sleeping. Brand, who's chairman of the Republican Party of Langland County, said, we want it transparent and out in the open so we can all witness how they counted the votes and which votes were legal. Now, this guy is the Republican Party chair of one of the counties in Wisconsin. He knows how this works. They count the ballots that were received first and the absentee ballots after they're done with the daily count of those ballots. That's how it works. That's not some trick, man. You know it, and you're lying.
You think that's bad, Dom? Robert Spindell, one of the 3 Republicans on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, stood by as speakers, spread conspiracy theories about election fraud and COVID-19, and compared the 2020 presidential election to Pearl Harbor and advocated for a violent overthrow of the government.
What?
This is a Wisconsin Elections Commissioner, one of the Republicans. But the Dems have perverted this panel.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates. We'll do it again tomorrow for you. Earl Ingram's next. Keep it locked. Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
It is pitchfork and torches time in America.
You serious, Clark?
Now you're going to believe me or your lying eyes.
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
Those aren't pillows.